Good afternoon to you and welcome to the live broadcast of the Senate this afternoon. Our broadcast brought to you courtesy of the collaboration between the Kenya Broadcasting Corporation in conjunction with the Parliamentary Broadcasting Unit. This is the afternoon sitting of the Senate dated 19th of April. The year is 2023, with a full in-tray for members to consider as listed in the order paper this afternoon. The Division of Revenue Bill, National Assembly's Bills number 9 of the year 2023, is a bill that senators will be resuming debate on. This particular debate is before senators to consider proposals contained in the bill from the National Assembly, and this particular bill will then, after the conclusion of the allocated time for debate, the House will then move into the Committee of the Whole House, where senators will be considering the Division of Revenue bills, this particular bill being a bill by the Senate, a leader of the majority party. After the Senate has considered the Division of Revenue Bill, it will then consider the Equalization Funds Appropriations Bill, Bill number 9 of the year 2023. Similarly, this will be a resumption of debate, and this particular bill is by the Chairperson Standing Committee on Matters Finance and Budget. Another bill that senators will be resuming debate on is the Prompt Payment Bill, Senate Bills number 8 of the year 2022 by Senator Mariam Sheikh Omar, that was interrupted on 12th of April on a Wednesday afternoon sitting this year. The Mang Bills, Bill number 13 of the year 2022, as well as the Employment Amendment Bill, Bill number 11 of the year 2022 by Senator Samson Cherargei, and the Agricultural and Livestock Extension Services Bill, Bill number 12 of the year 2022 by Senator Maureen Tabitha Mutinda, as well as the Konza Technopolis Bill, Bill by nominated Senator Gloria Oroba, as well as the Status Bill, Bill number 11 of the year 2022, are bills currently at the second stage, and senators will be making their contributions in regards to the proposals of what is contained in those particular bills. Pursuant to Standing Orders number 51, subsection 1 rather, Standing Orders number 52, subsection 1, nominated Senator Hamida Kibwana will be making a statement concerning the state of health and safety in schools following the tragedy at Mukumu Girls High School in Kakamega County. Pursuant to Standing Orders number 53, subsection 1 of the Senate, nominated Senator Veronica Maina will be seeking a statement from the Standing Committee on Matters Trade, Industrialization and Tourism regarding the status of the implementation of the Buy Kenya, Build Kenya initiative to increase the competitiveness and the consumption of locally produced goods and services. The business of the Senate is just about to commence. The Deputy Speaker, Honorable Kathuri Murungi, is presiding over the business of the Senate this afternoon. I now hand over for the live broadcast. Enjoy your viewing.
With abundant favor and blessings, as your servants whom you have been pleased to call to leadership positions in this republic, we seek guidance to treat and consider all matters that shall come to under deliberation in so just and faithful manner as to advance the peace, prosperity, and welfare of our country and of those whose interests we have committed to our charge. Amen. Clerk, confirm whether we have a requisite quorum. To ring the division bell for 5 minutes. Yeah, then we can do 5 more.
The Deputy Speaker of the Senate, Honorable Kathuri Murungi, currently presiding over the business of the Senate this afternoon, has given the Sergeant at Arms the directive to ring the Quorum bell for 5 minutes, and this is to give some room to a section of senators or senators who have not yet made their way into the chamber this afternoon, facilitate the aspect of the Senate having the requisite quorum to commence business this afternoon. Let's now have a look at what is appearing on the order paper this afternoon and pass on to standing orders of the Senate. Standing orders number 53, subsection 1. Similarly, Senator Hamida Kibwana will be seeking a statement from the Standing Committee on Health. And this particular statement concerns the dental and optical healthcare treatment for Kenyans through the National Hospital Insurance Fund. Another senator are set to seek a statement pursuant to this particular standing order is the senator for Marsabit County, Senator Mohamed Shute, who will be seeking a statement from the Standing Committee on Trade, Industrialization and Matters Tourism regarding the status of management of museums and heritage sites in Kenya. Pursuant to Standing Orders number 56, subsection 1, the Chairperson Select Committee on the County Public Accounts Committee, as well as the Chairperson Select Committee on the County Public Investment and Special Funds Committee, and the Chairperson Select Committee on Delegated Legislation will be issuing statements in regards to the activities of the respective committees. A look at the provisions of the Division of Revenue Bill, Bill number 9 of the year 2023. That is a motion being handled by or moved by the Senate Majority Leader at the Senate. There is funds and equalization funds allocation that has been proposed. There appears to be some development at the chamber. Let's listen into what the chair has to say.
One, administration of oath.
Next order.
Order number 2, communication from the chair.
Next order.
Order number 3, messages.
Next order.
Order number 4, petitions.
Next order.
Order number 5, papers.
That's from Committee on Devolution.
Mr. Speaker, this is from the Committee on Devolution and Intergovernmental Relations.
Proceed and table.
Thank you, Mr.
Give
Speaker.
notice, give notice for motion. Or it's a paper.
It's a paper.
Yeah, okay, proceed.
I beg to lay the following paper on the table of the Senate today, 19th April 2023. Report of the Standing Committee on Devolution and Intergovernmental Relations on a statement sought by Senator Mwenda Gataya Mofaya, MP, on the relocation of National Government Administrative Services from Chuka Town to Kathwana County Headquarters, Tharaka Nithi County. I hereby lay.
Okay, thank you. Next order.
Order number 6, notices of motion.
Next order.
Order number 7, statements and questions.
We have a couple of statements. We start this understanding order 52-1. Senator Aminda Kibwana. She has 2 statements under that standing order. So she's not allowed. We defer to a later date. And then we proceed to Senator under 53-1. Nominated is Senator Veronica Maina. Also stands defunct. Next is Senator Gloria Roba. Yes, proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on National Security, Defense and Foreign Relations regarding the need to protect the identity of Kenyans visiting public buildings and business premises. In the statement, the committee should justify why many businesses do not protect the identity of members of the public when they require security guards to collect and retain original identification documents at the entrance of buildings they visit, rather than noting the names and ID numbers and returning the documents. 2, outline the measures being taken by the Ministry of Interior and Coordination of National Government to prevent identity theft. And 3, state any plans by the Ministry of Interior and Coordination of National Government to develop an integrated population registration system, IPRS, that can grant companies access to verify the authenticity of an ID number rather than insisting on use of the physical identity cards. Thank you.
Let us get at least 2 comments. We start with the majority leader.
Mr. Speaker, that's a very interesting proposition that Senator Gloria wants the House to consider. Curiously, I have never really thought about it in the direction that she's pointing us to. On many occasions, when you go to public buildings or even private enterprises, you give out your ID without bothering what somebody else will do. Of course, being street smart over times, and now as a public figure, I rarely give the correct identity card number or even the phone number, because what will happen is that on most occasions, you'd leave your number at a security guard, then later in the evening, after they've left work, you'd find the usual calls that politicians get. Oh, I'm so-and-so, I work at such a place, you had come to visit, I need this or that favor. So it became quite untidy. But that's a favor that extended to maybe those of us that are public figures and that are known. But what about the people that we represent? Because that's primarily our duty and the reason why we are here. When we passed the data protection bill, Mr. Speaker, we left it we created the Office of the Data Commissioner to be able to look into these kind of things, to ensure that publicly availed data is not used for any purpose other than that for which it was intended. The reason why you give your identification details is for you to be identified. Of course, many of these came to the fore, Mr. Speaker, with the wake of Al-Shabaab and terrorism issues in the country. Unfortunately, this has now become subject to abuse And you'll find that ordinary Kenyans are later running into trouble for 1, 2, or 3 other reasons, Mr. Speaker. And it's rather unfortunate. So I believe that once the committee, I don't know whether it will be ICT or whichever committee will consider, because this is an issue about data. And we created an office under the State Department, though independent, but administratively under the State Department of ICT, that they'd come and respond and perhaps issue additional regulations of how they intend to curtail these menace, Mr. Speaker, because it's something which, if not properly addressed, then can end up with the kind of situation that Senator Gloria is describing before the House this afternoon, Mr. Speaker, where private data is abused, yet when it was being given out, it was intended for public good, Mr. Speaker. So with very keen interest, Mr. Speaker, expecting to see what the data commissioner will be proposing to the House as a possible solution, so that ordinary citizens don't have to fear. There has to be better information, better ways of managing this information, Mr. Speaker. With those very remarks, I support and appreciate Senator Gloria for bringing this issue to the House.
Thank you, Majority Leader. The author of this statement is requesting the Standing Committee on National Security, Defense and Foreign Affairs to look into this matter. But the way you are now taking also is very relevant, because we have a data commissioner from, I think, last year. So let's have Senator Manzo, Daniel.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, when we passed this law, there were clearly that regulations will lie after. And with the work of terrorism, there has been requirement in many places you will drive to. First, they take your car number, then they take your, again also your full details, your telephone number, your full name, and that data is left with a security guard. We may not have captured that in the law we passed, and there may be a need to check that, because that information can be used by people who, even use Safaricom to deal with M-Pesa, or even to con other people, pretending that they are you, to open fake Facebook accounts, a lot of things have been done, and reports have been made to police, and those cases haven't gotten far. So I think even that time, we had new IDs had been produced, Mr. Speaker, with all the details, and what was being called one-stop shop. With one card, all the details of an individual were there, and the question arose, and even there were court cases which first stopped the release of those new IDs ourselves. This team came to Parliament, and using iPads, took all our information. And that card, I remember a chief called me from somewhere in Nairobi and told me, please come and pick your card. But the next time I went to pick the card, the chief was never available, and that all my total data is still lie with some people somewhere. So, Mr. Speaker, I think it's a high time for even security of an individual. And we come up with a way of, once all your details have been taken, then who is responsible, and how can we make sure that it is not misused in one way or another, and especially against your own personal security. Many of us, you will not go to places without being identified, without being known, because you're already a public figure and people know you. Some release you without picking your details, but some insist, we want all your details. And I'm sure at that particular moment is not for the best of reasons. So, Mr. Speaker, I think while we consider this, we may need multitasking. You may have the Committee of Interior and maybe the Committee of ICT working together, so that whatever proposals come out, we can be able to address them sufficiently. Otherwise, I support the statement, and I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
This is really an interesting statement, and limited to two, but because of the law of supply and demand, let me give two more senators, one this end and the other one from my left. Let us hear this IT guru, Senator William Kipkemoi. Kisang.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I know you know very well what happened in the last Parliament. When we passed the Data Protection Act 2019, and we already have Office of Data Protection Commissioner in office. So I believe, as members have said, it is good that the two committees, the Committee on ICT and Interior or Security, they look at this matter seriously. Honorable Speaker, there are people who have actually, they have Fuliza, they have taken loan, people using their identification, because when you leave your ID at the security desk, you know, they can photocopy. While you are away for a meeting for an hour or 2 hours, photocopies are taken, they go and register either with the telecommunication providers, either Safaricom, Airtel, or Telcom, and then eventually you'll see yourself that you have Fuliza, and you have not, you know very well you have not done it. So this is a very serious security lapse, and I agree with Senator Gloria that what they need to do is to automate the tests, the security desk in each building, so that they can check, you know, they can do an integration with the IPRS. They don't even need to do a complicated system. They can just use USSD. Those are very easy things to be done, Honorable Speaker, so that at least we save our people. Finally, Honorable Speaker, I believe the Office of Data Protection Commissioner is not well resourced. They don't have enough employees to check on these issues. So hopefully in the course of discussing budget, when we did the other day a budget policy statement, and when the budget itself comes in, we need National Assembly and Treasury and even ourselves to ensure that office is resourced so that they have enough officers to check on data processors and data controllers to ensure they follow the law properly and the regulations are passed. Sometimes regulations take forever at the Office of Attorney General instead of speeding them up so that our people can benefit on this particular data law, Honorable Speaker. I support, and it is good that Gloria has come up with this.
Lastly, Senator Sige Kege.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for an opportunity to add to the statement sought by Senator Gloria. I support, Mr. Speaker. It's a very progressive statement and very relevant, to be honest. And I congratulate Senator Gloria for bringing this to the House. It also ties in nicely, Mr. Speaker, with previous statements that Gloria has also sought, to which she reminded us of yesterday in the first session of the House, Chair, asking Safaricom and the Communication Authority of Kenya to also divulge some more information regarding data protection in the country. Mr. Speaker, in addition to what has already been contributed by other senators on this statement, I also want to bring the scenario which I have been made aware of through the disabled community, whereby persons with disabilities data is also being abused in the same way as has been spoken. Mr. Speaker, when I go to different forums, people with disabilities give me the experience, lived experience of having their identification at these entrances, shopping malls, office buildings, and so on and so forth, being used to abuse and to register under their names for benefits and different types of reliefs that are accorded to persons with disabilities. Because as you know, Mr. Speaker, there are some special reliefs that are accorded to us as persons with disabilities because of our day-to-day challenges. Mr. Speaker, secondly, these identification cards are also and have also been used in relation to a car registration, because as you know, when you walk into or drive into a shopping mall, your car is identified, and then when you walk into the entrance, you leave your identification card. And so it's very easy for people who are wanting to abuse, wanting to usurp, wanting to otherwise cause havoc to then correlate your ID number with your car registration number, Mr. Speaker, which, as Senator Gloria is seeking, can cause a lot of danger and personal security issues, and maybe even national security issues. Mr. Speaker, I also agree with the majority leader who said that sometimes you're forced to give 1 or 2 numbers that are different on your ID card or your phone number because of personal security. Mr. Speaker, this is something that should be added or probed further by the committees that you will commit this statement to, and I look forward to the receiving the responses by the statement so that we can have supplementary questions and clarifications also made. I thank you.
Let us have the next statement by Senator Edwin Sifuna.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise pursuant to Order 53.1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Roads, Transportation and Housing regarding the construction of Ngong Road, a crucial road for residents of Nairobi and the neighboring counties. In the statement, the committee should clarify whether the contractor awarded the tender for the construction of Ngong Road has completed construction works on the road as per the terms of the contract, including the restoration of damaged sections. 2, inform the Senate of the scope of works undertaken by the contractor, stating who is responsible for works on the unfinished sections of the road and measures put in place to ensure that the road, which has been under construction since 2017, is completed to the required standards. And finally, Mr. Speaker, spell out measures to be undertaken by the contractor to address concerns about the incomplete sections of Ngong Road that lack clear markings, lanes that end abruptly, and have insufficient lighting, all of which pose safety hazards. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Before I give some comments, Senator Gloria, your statement is as we speak in the Committee on National Security. But if you want to do changes as advised by the majority leader, you can always approach the liaison committee to have that decision, to the 2 committees to look into that matter. Because I can see there's a lot of IT issues. So you are well advised. Senator Ososi, do you want to comment on this statement?
I had wanted to comment on the one on identity.
Okay.
But then we have
Senator Karungo, Dangwapo, Chair rules. What is out of order?
Thank you very much, Chair. I seek your indulgence and guidance. I'm the Chairman, Roads, Transportation and Housing, and I've just heard a member, the Senator for Nairobi, requesting a statement about Ngong Road. I seek your indulgence because he's a member of the said committee. Is it in order for a member of the same committee to request a statement to the committee that he belongs, yet those matters probably can be deliberated on during the agendas, AOBs? I seek your guidance.
Chair Loans, you know, the Senator for Nairobi is none other than Senator Sifuna. And he represents the good people of Nairobi County, including my children who use Ngong Road. So he is very much in order to represent his people in this house. And now that you are saying his statement should come and I will be in your committee, you are out of order, Chair. So I think the statement is well praised. So consider it with the need it deserves. Senator Modigi Alexander.
Bwana Speaker,
You want to comment on this statement?
Yes.
Endelea.
Bwana Spika, ni asante kwa sababu umejibu mwenyekiti wa parapara, kwa sababu hata wiki jana nisikia mwenyekiti wa agriculture wakati niuliza swali ya makandamia akisimama akitaka kupinga mimi kuuliza swali ya makandamia, na haikuwa mzuri kwa sababu tunajua kama huko mwenyekiti ama mdogo wa mwenyekiti kuna mambo ya mwenyekiti na mambo ya county na mambo ya watu wote wa Kenya, ya mambo yote ya Kenya. Kwa hivyo mimi naunga mkono ule ameuliza swali, hata kama ni mwenyekiti, ndio tusiwe sisi tutakuwa tunafungiwa nje ati kwa sababu hatutaki kuuliza maswali. Kwa hivyo mpaka kila mtu yote awe na mambo ya kuuliza ndio tuweze kufanya kazi nzuri. Asante.
Hapo salama kabisa bwana Mheshimiwa Mundigi. Senator Chelagei, very brief comments kindly. Because we are really taking a lot of time on statements. Just 2 minutes maximum.
Mr. Speaker.
And I request to be timed now. 2 minutes only.
Mr. Speaker, I know we have a speaker in the House, and I don't know why Senator Onyonga is uncomfortable.
And then
Mr. Speaker.
Senator Chelagei, I was giving some communication and still you are talking. Why are you confusing my guidance to the House? You are protected. So kindly use your 2 minutes.
I want to support statement by Senator Edwin Watenya Sifuna, the Senator of Nairobi. I think that statement is timely, Mr. Speaker. I agree that Ngong Road is not well marked, especially when you are driving through and whether renovations was done. Just the way I was asking about Mombasa Road, the lower deck. When it is raining now, Mr. Speaker, sir, it is very hard for motorists to navigate through because of poor drainage. And you remember when the expressway, Mr. Speaker, the Jubilee government governed by the handshake ensured that they inflated the expressway, and therefore the drainage, the design, the lighting is very poor, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, even when you look at the Langata Road interchange, it is not well marked, and you have to remember the lanes also were reduced. Not only in Nairobi City County, but across the county, Mr. Speaker. Where I come from, the contractor does the road, they don't do signages, they don't do drainage, they don't do proper markings on the road. So I don't know whether contractors disappear with it or it is complacency of agencies that do their job. But anywhere in the country, Mr. Speaker, and this is a bad manners that is creeping into the country. A contractor does a very good road, but they don't provide for the drainage. So we need to be told the BQ, for example, of Ngong Road. What was the bill of quantities? Did it involve the markings? Did it involve the drainage, Mr. Speaker? Because we had to lose lives, Mr. Speaker, as you are aware, and our deepest condolences and empathies with the children and the families who lost their loved one in Naivasha. There are many cases of road accidents across the country. Mr. Speaker, as much as we blame the drivers, there is also poor markings and reflectors on the road, Mr. Speaker. So the necessary agencies must rise up to the occasion and ensure that any contractor that does that job, Mr. Speaker, and it's very...
Your time is over. In the screen on my left-hand side, I can see Senator Okech and Senator Onyonka and Senator Buru. Of course, Senator Onyonka, you are to get the chance, but now Senator Buru Odinga has requested now that he should also speak. My senior...
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the honor. Mr. Speaker, I also want to just briefly say that the contractors normally leave out drainages in making roads. And this is deliberate, Mr. Speaker, because contractors cannot work at a loss. Contractors are business people, but corruption within the government, that is the engineer, the PSS, the what, up to the top. Those are the people who eat the money for the drainages, for the ears of the road. You call them the ears of the road, you find a very beautiful road is built, but it does not have an ear, it does not have drainage, because that contractor is recovering the monies he has paid to the pockets of individuals. And that is why they don't complete and they don't do the good job that they should do. So if this government where Chair Gay is a very prominent member, stops this corruption, which has been there from government to government. It is not the whatever you call handshake or what. This has been there for many, many, many years, including those years when your boss was number 2. Mr. Speaker, if they stop this, then our roads are going to be good. It is not the contractors, it is actually the government which eats the money from the contractors. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The statement is committed to the Standing Committee on Loans, Transportation and Housing. Next statement by Senator Veronica Maina. Before, just a minute, Senator Veronica. Honorable Senators, in the public gallery, we have 60 students accompanied by 2 teachers from Kericho Day Secondary School in Kericho County, who are in the Senate on an educational tour. Honorable Senators, in our usual tradition of receiving and welcoming visitors to Parliament, I extend a warm welcome to them, and on behalf of the Senate and on my own behalf, wish them a fruitful visit. Thank you. Yes, Majority Leader, this is your school.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to welcome the visiting delegation from Kericho Day Secondary School, one of the most celebrated day schools in our county, Mr. Speaker, that boast of, it's among the most cosmopolitan actually, being in Kericho town, has students from all over the country, if you may want to put it that way, Mr. Speaker. They excel quite well in both academic and co-curricular activities. Mr. Speaker, I have very fond memories of many things that we did there, either games or other co-curricular activities in their science and debating labs during my days as a student in Kericho High School. Mr. Speaker, sir, I want to encourage the boys and girls from this school who have taken time to visit the Senate this afternoon to enjoy their stay, learn, and get the full taste of their visit, interact with as many staffers, members of parliament, and be encouraged to know that many of the people they see here as members of parliament or as staff went through the stage of life where they were just a few years ago, and today they have the opportunity to serve this country. Theirs is coming faster than they can imagine. And in no short time, I believe that among us, those that are visiting, will be Kenyans who will serve this country, not only locally, but internationally as well, Mr. Speaker, because the world is now their playground, as it were, Mr. Speaker. Therefore, I do welcome them. I wish them well in the course of their stay here in Parliament. And of course, even as they make their way back to Kericho, let them enjoy also the trip back. I wish them comfort, of course, safe journey. Mr. Speaker, we spoke very much this morning about the issue of road safety. We get worried nowadays, especially when students get to travel. But I want to believe that they'll enjoy God's protection as they travel back to Kericho. Pass our greetings back to the people, and of course, see you over the weekend as usual. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes. Senator Onyonka.
Pengine nitatumia. Nashukuru sana. Mimi pia ningependa, kwa sababu ndugu yangu ambaye ni mheshimiwa anayesimamia wengi kwa hili jumba, kwa wale wanafunzi ambao wametoka Kericho High School, ni shukran sana, na nimeamua kuzungumza kwa lugha ya Kiswahili kwa sababu ningependa kuwauliza nyinyi kama wanafunzi muendelee kuisifu na kuitumia lugha yetu ya kitaifa. Sababu ya hiyo ni vile kuwa kwa hili jumba tukijadiliana na tukizungumzia masuala nyeti na masuala kuu kuhusu nchi yetu, tunatumia lugha mbili, lugha ya Kiingereza na lugha ya Kiswahili. Na haswa wale ambao ni viongozi wenu kama Mheshimiwa Cheruyot, Mheshimiwa Cherargei. Unajua zamani, ndugu Spika, mtu ambaye ametoka kwa jamii ya Kikalenjin, hata rais mwenyewe alikuwa hazungumzi lugha ya Kiswahili vizuri, lakini siku hizi lugha ya Kiswahili inazungumzwa na viongozi katika jamii ya Kalenjin safi, na wanazungumza hiyo lugha kisanifu, na ni heshima kuwa wameendelea kutimiza kuwa lugha yetu ya kitaifa iendelee kusifiwa na kutumika. Vile mnavyojua, mimi kama seneta wa eneo wakilishi la Kisii County, ningependa kuwasifu, kuwapa wosia kuwa muendelee kuwa marafiki na wale vijana wetu ambao wanatoka Kisii, kwa sababu najua wanafunzi wengi wametoka eneo la Kisii na wanasoma kule Kericho, na ningependa kusema kuwa Kericho ni eneo la kitaifa ambalo tunaliheshimu kwa sababu ya kukuza chai na maendeleo mengine, na ningependa kusema kuwa pia mkirudi nyumbani msafiri vema na mfike vema na msalimie wazazi wenu. Na tena ningependa kumalizia kusema kuwa nyinyi, taifa hili ni lenu. Hakikisha miaka 10-15 inakuja na nyinyi mje hapa muwe maseneta, wengine muwe wabunge, alafu wengine wale mainjinia na nini, muendelee kufanya kazi zingine. Asante sana ndugu Spika kwa kunipa nafasi kuzungumzia hili jambo. Shukran.
Mwisho Seneta Roba Magoma Gloria, dakika 2.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to take this opportunity to welcome the students from Kericho. I know the members of the House do not know that while we were doing the mapping of menstrual hygiene, we found out that actually in Kericho, they are very aware about menstruation, Mr. Speaker. So I want to congratulate them because I think our senator from Kericho has actually done a very good job by being able to talk to the students. And I want to say thank you for actually being ambassadors and for ensuring that we end the period shaming. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, Senator Veronica Duarte, make your statement.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Trade, Industrialization and Tourism regarding the status of implementation of the Buy Kenya, Build Kenya initiative to increase competitiveness and consumption of locally produced goods and services. In the statement, the committee should, 1, outline the policies that have been put in place by the ministry to promote the Buy Kenya, Build Kenya initiative, explain measures the ministry is taking to upscale the local furniture industry to encourage the purchase of their products whose quality and workmanship is sometimes far superior to some foreign furniture currently flooding the Kenyan market, elucidate the strategies put in place by the ministry to promote the leather industry in furtherance of the vibrant livestock industry instead of exporting wet blue leather, which is semi-processed, and in turn, importing leather bags, shoes, and apparels which can be manufactured locally. Number 4, provide information on any plans to encourage and support value addition to agricultural products, noting that most of the products grown in Kenya, such as coffee, are sold in their raw form to multinational companies, thus denying Kenyan industry the benefit of selling value-added products. And 5, state what the ministry is doing to ensure that apart from companies in the textile industry which are currently able to sell their products locally, with the support from the ministry, other companies in the special economic zones that manufacture products for export are enabled to sell their products locally. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Thank you. Let's get very few comments, 2, 3 from one. The first one is Senator Muma Mweka Kadri.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to contribute to that statement by Senator Veronica and to congratulate her for that statement. Mr. Speaker, the only way we will get this country to care for its youth is by getting into industry. And the questions or the statement Senator Veronica raises is a very important statement that gets us to introspect as a country. Are we doing the right thing in order to create that employment that we want to do? Are we doing the right thing in the agriculture sector, in the handicrafts, in the matters relating to dealing with cattle and the products that come from these animals? Mr. Speaker, it is so shocking that at a time when we are needy and the country requires food, you hear of the Minister for Agriculture planning to go and take business to farmers in Zambia instead of supporting farmers locally. It is so distressing when you hear that he has acquired some land in Zambia where he wants to plant, and yet we have a lot of land in this country that he could actually utilize. There are many farmers who he could partner with in order to get this country going. Mr. Speaker, the only way we will move to enable this country to grow economically is to have industry everywhere. Mr. Speaker, as a Senate, we need to encourage every county to set up industry within the counties. What she's talking about in terms of coffee, whether it is maize milling, whether it is bringing other products from our traditional foods, Mr. Speaker, we have not explored that because we are not investing in industry. And the Ministry of Trade will do us a big favor if it actually finds money to invest in this country in setting up, in partnering with county governments to set up export processing zones.
Just a minute, Senator Muma. What is your point of order? Senator Mandago?
Mr. Speaker, I rise on the standing order 101-4. Senator Muma alleges that the Cabinet Secretary of Agriculture has acquired land for growing maize in Zambia. Mr. Speaker, can she substantiate or provide evidence of acquisition of that land, or otherwise withdraws and apologizes to the Cabinet Secretary?
Let's get to the second point of order from the majority leader.
You know, Mr. Speaker, I had actually tried to get your attention, but then I realized that, oh, you thought I wanted to make a comment. Okay, no problem. It's in line with what Senator Mandago is saying. You know, as senators, we owe it to the House that every time we speak, we give a statement of fact. A statement of fact cannot be qualified by rumors, newspaper articles, and such like stories. It's not accurate, Mr. Speaker, and I think unless Senator, my very good friend, Senator Kathy, has information to the contrary, that one, government has acquired land in Zambia for which they intend to plant maize. Because, you know, acquiring, especially for public use, there's a process through which government does such things. So I would wish to understand what exactly Senator Catherine Muma means by government acquiring land in Zambia. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, I know for a fact that I have seen questions that senators have prepared for the various cabinet secretaries to come and address before this House during the cabinet secretary's time appearance. I know this is one of the questions that's listed because I get copies in my office, Mr. Speaker. Wouldn't it be in order, instead of reacting to rumors and Facebook posts and very sensational stories that are being posted without firm basis, to understand first if there is such a policy, what is the thinking that informs it, and whether it is, once you have the evidence of what has led to that thinking, whether it is for the benefit of our farmers or otherwise. Mr. Speaker. And I know that the Cabinet Secretary is slated to appear before this House either next Wednesday or the week after that, Mr. Speaker. Before we get there, shouldn't Senator Kathy be measured in her remarks as opposed to being sensational? I take great exception to what Senator Kathy is saying, just like my colleague Senator Mandago, that government has acquired land in Zambia. Unless maybe she has, if she has that information, we'd also be glad to know if that is true. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Sorry, Senator Catherine, the 2 points of orders are touching on standing on the 105.
I'm aware, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, if you give me time, maybe I can bring the clip of the minister talking of preparing and he has actually identified land in Zambia where maize will be planted that will be enough to deal with the food security issue. I undertake to actually provide a clip
so
to that
what you are
effect.
saying is that you are needed to provide evidence.
Yes.
All facts.
Yes, Mr.
that
Speaker.
The government has leased or acquired land in is it Zambia? Or
Mr. Speaker, list is your
wherever
word.
it is?
List is your word. I have not mentioned, I have not talked about any leasing of land, but I will bring the clip that refers to the land where, in Zambia, where maize was going to be planted in order to.
Senator Catherine Muma, you
Yes.
know you are doing so well, eh? Before you touched on that drive wire, for which. So are you saying that you want to table evidence so that now you can go on record? You will table evidence that you have facts and evidence so that we can now proceed.
If you give me time, next
Yes,
time
I want to
come.
give you enough time. Any
Thank you,
time
Mr.
that
Speaker.
want.
I will do so.
What is again your point of order, Senator Cheptumo?
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, this is a house of record. And whoever alleges must prove. I want to also, through you, Speaker, to inform my colleague, my learned colleague also, that he should acquaint ourselves with the nature of evidence to produce. A clip alone is not enough by the minister. So as you give that leeway for her to produce, it is important for her to ensure that she brings to this house what is admissible in the house to prove the allegations.
You have another point of order?
Mr. Speaker, I didn't want Senator Kathy, a very good friend of mine, to conflate issues. Nobody is disputing that the CS for Agriculture made the comments that she's referring to. But if you listen to Senator Mandago and myself clearly, we take great exception to a specific part of your speech, which is what we are challenging you on, where you stated that government has acquired land in Zambia. That's a part of your speech that we are challenging you on. If she can produce that evidence, Mr. Speaker, and satisfy us as a House, then we will be more than comfortable to sit back. Not to be general in her response and say, oh, I saw a clip somewhere. But also, Senator Cheptumo, a ranking member, has helped Senator Kathy appreciate what passes as material evidence that can be brought before a House of Parliament. It's not just a clip that you pick out of WhatsApp and all these other places.
Takajwang, the majority leader is also on a point of order. So you cannot stand again on a point of order on a point of order. So maybe you allow Senator Catherine to proceed and then you can raise your matter. No, let her first start the, yeah.
Mr. Speaker,
get her moving, then you can raise your
Mr.
point
Speaker,
of order.
you had guided. Now, to the extent that the majority
Actually,
leader.
I was to guide you that the next sitting, standing on the 105.2, I can give you the next sitting to provide that evidence. Yes, Senator Kajwang?
Mr. Speaker, my point of order really was whether it was appropriate for Senator Cheptumo, who is a very distinguished member of parliament, to attempt to put Senator Muma in a box on what she can bring and what she cannot bring. Because she cannot anticipate what Senator Muma is going to bring. She might as well bring the title deed for the land in Zambia, owned by the government of Kenya. So it is not in his place to direct Senator Muma on how to respond. But Mr. Speaker, the bigger issue is that when you're a member of parliament, you enjoy certain privileges that not many other Kenyans enjoy. In this house, the freedom of speech and expression is guaranteed. And Mr. Speaker, in as much as we want to talk about the accuracy of facts, this house is quasi-judicial. You cannot apply the Evidence Act in its entirety when it comes to this house, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, even judicial institutions take judicial notice. And Mr. Speaker, we can never be in a situation where we are saying this house can never take judicial notice of what is going on in the country. And that when someone brings the attention of the chair to things going on in the country, you are told to produce tangible and hard evidence. Mr. Speaker, I just want to encourage that let us not be too pedantic about the application of Standing Order number 105, because people will fear speaking here, because even if I rose up and said my name is Otieno, someone will tell me to prove and to provide my birth certificate. That kills and stifles debate. I want to urge the House across the aisle that let us not use 105 to stop people from processing their mind flow. And let us not be pedantic about it. Let us allow senators to exercise the freedom of expression, and let us also refrain from trying to defend the executive at all times, Mr. Speaker. We are all members of the Senate, and as we said yesterday, none of us here is a minister, is a president, is a prime minister. We are all senators. So if we want the government and the national executive to explain something, let us call them here and let them be the ones to explain it.
Your point of order is taken. You know, one thing you must be alive to is that the chair here, the speaker, has no eyes, has no ears, and did not stop the honorable member from continuing with her submission until I was alerted by the majority leader and Senator Mandago. Otherwise, this couldn't go. So I consulted my standing order, which is the Holy Bible that I use when I'm here. And really, if it's a statement of fact, it contravenes standing order 105. And the honorable member, Catherine, is not complaining that she cannot produce that evidence. So also, why are you now not giving her time to bring the evidence that she has? Why are you also interfering with the independence of mind? Continue and finish.
Mr. Speaker, I hope my time has been saved. And Mr. Speaker, you guided properly, and I undertake to bring that clip to the extent that I sounded like I know where that land is in Zambia. I want to confirm that I have not seen the land. I am speaking from the expression of the cabinet minister. In my learning of what government is that a cabinet secretary speaks for government, not for themselves. So to the extent that you are a minister, you will be speaking, or when you speak about an issue you're doing in your docket, you are speaking for government. But as guided, I will submit as provided. Back to the beautiful statement by Senator Veronica. The point I was making, Mr. Speaker, I think it is time we encouraged building of industries in every county, since we are the Senate, in order to get more of our youth better employed. It would be good for the Ministry of Trade to negotiate trade deals, not just for a few cartels, but for the entire country, so that we can get even Mama Mboga to be able to export her vegetables to neighboring countries, to get the true hustlers that they purport to represent to also be able to participate in the export markets with our produce, which are of extremely high quality. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Tabitha Mutinda, know that we are giving only 2 minutes to make a comment on the statement. This is no time for debate.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this particular opportunity. I rise to support Senator Veronica on her statement that build Kenya, buy Kenya. Mr. Speaker, I rise because as a local manufacturer, I really advocate and support for local manufacturing. Local manufacturing because this is an industry that if we focus on ensuring that we support our local products that our local manufacturers are actually producing, then we increase revenue in this country. This platform, Mr. Speaker, gives opportunities to our youth as far as employment is concerned. We have a lot, especially in the agricultural sector, Mr. Speaker, that if we put in place, we are going to actually harvest much more revenue from the products that can be locally manufactured from all our local products that we have. Case example also, Mr. Speaker, with the skin of the animals, we can be able to produce leather products from the products of the animals that we have in this country. Mr. Speaker, locally, our youths, apart from them getting employment, we are going to have an opportunity to encourage them to be more innovative. Look at the education system that we have today as CBC. It is vast in such that it is actually identifying students' talent at a very early time. And with this encouragement, our local young children are going to stop actually focusing on getting education and getting to be employed, but focusing to be the next CEOs of this country, the next managing directors of this country, because we have encouraged them to be able to start their own companies in this country by ensuring that they are able to have a market share by us being the local market share, being the clientele to this particular product.
Senator Eddy. Senator Eddy, you seem not to be prepared to make any comment on this. Are you prepared? Okay.
Mr. Speaker, I don't know why you always doubt me. And you just say you don't have ears, I don't have eyes.
I saw as if you are not like...
No, I'm always prepared. I was born ready.
Okay.
That's Eddie. Mr. Speaker, I think that this is one of the most crucial statements that is very important for our country. And I think that it is crucial because it fundamentally contributes to the recovery of the manufacturing industry in our country. And I would beseech the relevant committee to be able to actually also advance the conversations around policies on taxes. Because, Mr. Speaker, if you observe what happens in our last audited finances, which is 2019-2020, Mr. Speaker, the manufacturing industry contributed the least in our GDP, I think at about 7.2%. Yet, in terms of taxation, it was the most taxation in this country, and policies that are pertaining to taxation in manufacturing is the one that actually makes it impossible for any kind of local manufacturers to, one, invest properly in the industry and cultivate an environment for which labor can be involved. But most importantly, just as Senator Veronica has indicated, it is critical that high taxation also contributes highly to the products of local manufacturers being competitive in the market. So this is something that is fundamentally a problem, and I know that it is related to the national government idea of raising capital, but I think that the national government should be advised even by the committee that high taxation in the name of trying to prove to different countries that we're taking money from, that we can be able to pay our debts, is not conducive for actually making manufacturing recovery in the country. So, Mr. Speaker, I would be very keen if this particular committee emphasizes on the policies with regards to taxation. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Last but not the least, Senator Chelgei, on this statement.
Mr. Speaker, Buy Kenya, Build Kenya is a good statement that tries to promote the country. But over the years, we have done little, Mr. Speaker. I can just give an example, quick reaction, and congratulate Senator, our former Secretary General of UDA, Senator Veronica Maina. Mr. Speaker, there are many money that is being into brand Kenya, but we are yet to see the revenue turnover. Mr. Speaker, I can give an example, and I hope when the committee appears through Senator Veronica Maina's statement, we can even use our athletes. Eliud Kipchoge, Evans Chebet, and Ellen Obiri were trailblazing in Chicago. Billions of Kenyans were watching that race. Billions of the people of the world were watching. Mr. Speaker, you remember Eliud Kipchoge when he ran under 2 hours. More than 5 to 7 billion people in the world were watching. Did Eliud Kipchoge wear any T-shirt that shows or showcases Kenya or across the globe? Have you seen President Paul Kagame partnering with Arsenal to ensure that Visit Rwanda when they play the, I don't know how the Arsenal are doing at the moment. It looks they're not, but what I'm saying, Mr. Speaker, it says Visit Rwanda, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, we need to use what we have. Let us use our athletes. Let us use our products like tea, so that when we walk anywhere in the world, Mr. Speaker, you can be able to buy and visit Kenya. But that one should not get foreign direct investment into the country. We must also welcome investors so that they can work hand in hand and turn around our economy. I thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Thank you, Honorable Senators. Honorable Senators, in the public gallery, we have 63 pupils accompanied by 4 teachers and 1 board of management member from Quorum Primary School in Moya, West Sub-County in Kirinyaga County, who are in the Senate on an education tour. Honorable Senators, in our ancient tradition of receiving and welcoming visitors to Parliament, I extend a warm welcome to them, and on behalf of the Senate and on my own behalf, wish them a fruitful visit. Thank you. Senator Kirinyaga County. Senator Hembu County. You are neighbor to Kirinyaga at River Rupingazi.
Bwana Spika, nakaribisha watoto na walimu wa kutoka Kirinyaga County. Kirinyaga County ni pamoja na Embu County. Karibuni sana, muone vile Senate tunafanya, kwa sababu hata sisi tulikuwa watoto kama nyinyi. Kwa hiyo mjifunze, wengine watakuwa maseneta, wengine watakuwa rais. Kwa hiyo msome vizuri ndio muweze kupita. Ya pili, pia ni aibu kubwa sana kama siku ya leo mmekuja tukiongea mambo ya ambaye Kenya kwa Kenya, mambo ya kilimo, na pia unajua kama Kirinyaga na Embu County hakukuwa na mvua ya kutosha na tulikuwa nataka chakula, na mpaka saa hii hatuko pahali mzuri. Kwa hivyo ni kuomba mkirundi Embu na Kirinyaga na kila kona zote muweze kupanda miti, na pia tunaomba hata department zile zingine tuwe tukisaidiwa maji ya kilimo. Nikimalizia na supporti hiyo mjadala ya senator, na pia ni tuone vile tunaweza kupata chakula nyingi. Kanjura Senator Muma, ingekuwa ni mambo ya kurusha mawe, naona ungerusha. Kwa hiyo nyinyi tumesoea nyinyi, lakini mambo ya chakula mpaka tukumbaliane, na Mungu amefanya mjiza, mvua ikanyesha. Kwa hiyo sisi Kenya tuko tayari kupanda na kufanya kazi yote. Kwa hivyo naunga mkono hiyo mjadala. Asante. Mungekuwa ni mawe mungerusha. Asante.
Next statement from Senator Mbugua. John Bugwa.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Education on reports of transfer of the only special needs teacher at Gano Special School in Oljoro constituency in Nyandarua County, which admits students with special needs from most of the Nyandarua County. In the statement, the committee should, 1, provide the current enrollment, pupil to teacher ratio, and social workers at the school, stating the number of pupils who require specialized support from special needs teachers and social workers. 2, shed light on reports of transfer of the only special needs teacher at the school, stating whether the transfer of the teacher was part of a broader restructuring plan for schools in Nyandarua County or an isolated incident, giving the current status on the search for a replacement. 3, ascertain reports of discontinued learning for pupils with special needs at the school following the transfer of the special needs teacher, stating plans to ensure that pupils at the school continue to receive support they need, including posting of social workers at the school. And finally, Mr. Speaker, state the amount of public funds released as capitation to the school in the last 12 months, stating any plans to complete ongoing infrastructural efforts, including the construction of a boarding block, fencing of the school, and leveling of the school compound. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Let's get a brief comment from Senator Joe Newton, Chair Education.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And although I'm Chair Education, I want to support the statement request by Senator George Mbugua. Mr. Speaker, special needs education or learners with special needs is actually a bill that we are considering at the committee level. And it is a very sad report to hear that the only teacher dealing with special needs learners has been transferred, Mr. Speaker. Ideally, what should happen in every learning institution is that before a teacher is transferred, a suitable replacement should have been availed before the only teacher was actually transferred from that school. And so, Mr. Speaker, I support, but I may not want to prosecute it further, being Chair for Education, the committee to which you may refer this statement. But it is true that we need to be very focused on serving learners with special needs. Even buildings should be friendly to them, and all public places, Mr. Speaker, should actually be very friendly to people with special needs and not only learners. So I support, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Senator William Cheptumo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I also arise to support the statement. And Mr. Speaker, the special needs institutions, I don't think they receive equal attention like the other institutions of learning. And Mr. Speaker, I think it is an error, and I'm happy that the Chair Education has confirmed that there is a law that they intend to pass to help in this process. Mr. Speaker, if you look at Article 27 of the Constitution, which talks about equality from discrimination. Every person is equal before the law and has the right to equal protection. Mr. Speaker, we need, as a house and as a country and as a government, to protect and ensure even the students in the special needs schools receive equal treatment the way we do allocation of resources, Mr. Speaker, to the other institutions. Mr. Speaker, there is need even to take stock, because even us as leaders today, and I want to encourage even members of this House, that as we visit those schools, the primary, the secondary, it is important we also give attention to these institutions in our counties, because, Mr. Speaker, they are a very critical aspect of our society. Article 4 of the same Article 27, Mr. Speaker, speaks to that issue of, again, not to discriminate anybody because of the disabilities they have. Mr. Speaker, when you talk of a situation like in where Honorable Mboko is talking about, where you transfer teachers in those schools and with no replacement, Mr. Speaker, you even continue to expose those students to the discrimination they always face. And so
Senator Matinga, Wahome.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Sir, I also rise to support the statement by Senator Bogwa. It is indeed one of the requirements of the SDGs that we mainstream all the vulnerables into the society. Mr. Speaker, sir, the case is not only isolated in one school in Olojorok, where the county I come from, Nyeri County. The special needs school has been faced with numerous challenges, one of them being the staffing, to equipping, and to infrastructure development. It is indeed very, very important as the Committee for Education led by, shared by Senator Fumoranga, as they are providing this information, maybe they should even go a step further and request also from the ministry to be given information out of the 30,000 teachers who are recruited, how many of them were meant for schools that handles vulnerable learners. Mr. Speaker, sir, it is also very, very important to have the vulnerable not isolated but mainstreamed into the society, because in their lives when they've grown up, they'll need to know how to get around and to live with other people who are enabled differently. We therefore think that it is very important. The statement is very, very important, and I therefore think that the Committee on Education should do it justice and arise to the occasion, and indeed put the Ministry of Education to answer the question, how comes 60 years after independence we are still facing the challenge of mainstreaming people who are vulnerable? Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I support.
The next statement by Senator Mohamed Chute. I can see you have two statements.
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Okay.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I have two statements. One, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Justice, Legal Affairs, and Human Rights on the status of compensation and resettlement of residents of Buxton Estate, Mombasa County. In the statement, the committee should, 1, state the acreage of land earmarked for modernization at the Buxton Estate in Mombasa County, outlining the current valuation of the land. 2, examine the bidding procedure for modernization of Buxton Estate carried out in 2016 and 2020, stating the tendering process, the number and cost of bids tendered with the details of who won and the amount of the award. Number 3, state the number and type of units expected to be constructed, their completion date, the estimate value at the date of completion, stating the criteria that will be used to share the units between the county government, residents, and the developer. My second statement reads, Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Tourism, Trade, and Industrialization.
Senator Mohamed, what is your point of order, Senator Karungo?
Mr. Speaker, I think when it comes to standing orders, we are taking time to, and maybe the Senator can have a seat as I. Mr. Speaker, I seek your indulgence because I'm the chairman, again, Roads, Transportation, and Committee. The state senator who is giving the statement is a member of the Roads, Housing, and Committee. Transportation Committee. The matter he's alluding to raise the statement on is a matter that is live in the committee of which is a member, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, when I was giving my report today, I said as the chair, I gave the Buxton, the developers of Buxton and the county government of Mombasa 21 days to respond, of which the 21 days lapsed 5 days ago, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we are yet to receive any information. So I feel that statement is in bad taste, Mr. Speaker, or else those who prepared that, they do not understand the mandate of the Committee of Roads, Housing, and Transportation, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, a matter that is live on another committee cannot and should not be directed to any other committee, Mr. Speaker. That's why I seek your indulgence, because no matter how long it takes, I'll be standing on point of orders, Mr. Speaker, so that each and every committee is respected and the members are respected in the committees. Mr. Speaker, JLAC, Mr. Speaker, the matter of housing is directed to JLAC, Mr. Speaker. So I seek your indulgence and I seek your guidance because the committee is working on the issue. Once the committee concludes, and the member is a member of the committee, Mr. Speaker, can raise the same issues on the committee. If we do not want to take the processes of this House, Mr. Speaker, we are not protecting anyone, and no one is protecting anybody. All we are looking for is for the procedures of this House to be followed to finality. Full stop, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Chair Rounds, I understand that issue was well canvassed when this petition was approved, and it is his statement is touching on acquisition, not compensation. So there is a clear line. You are the chair of the committee. Once all these issues land on your desk, make decisions as the committee. So don't feel offended so far because his wording is different, and I can see comments from the approving authority concerning that statement. Nothing is out of order because now no member is on the floor, Senator Roba, Gloria, Senator Chalgay. Point of order on who is contributing, who is on the floor so that you raise a point of order. No. Senator Mohamed Chute, proceed and conclude your statement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'll proceed with my second statement. Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Tourism, Trade and Industrialization on the status of management of museums and heritage sites in Kenya. In the statement, the committee should, 1, state the number of museums and curators under management and employment by the counties, disclosing the amount of revenue generated in the last 12 months from the facilities, noting that the management of museums is a devolved function. 2, disclose the particulars of ownership of the National Museums of Kenya, including share ownership, if any, stating its management structure. 3, outline the strategies counties have put in place to ensure that the museums under their management generate revenue to make them financially sustainable. Number 4, state steps to repatriate artifacts of notable value, such as Ahmed the elephant from Marsabit, and those that are from Kubifora, among other artifacts, from the National Museums of Kenya to the county of origin, stating when the artifacts were moved from the communities and amount of revenue generated since their relocation. And finally, state the amount of compensation and or repatriation of benefits due to the host communities from which these artifacts were removed, outlining plans, if any, including legislative interventions to expand and improve the status of museums in counties to bring them to a state of preservation, their sacred objects. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Senator Mohammed. Actually, your first statement, which the chair loans was alluding to, I'm trying to get this statement and your prayers and what you want executed. You have sent this requesting the Committee on Justice and Legal Affairs to look into this matter. But when you look at the contents are clearly in housing. Why did you take it to justice?
Mr. Speaker, what I am trying to bring to attention of the House is the procedure of acquiring that land through a tender system. Initially, the procedure was for low-cost housing, but later on, it has been turned into other business. So what I am trying to look at is the procedure, how this land was acquired. And we wanted to know how it was acquired. It was not the issue of housing. Housing issue is before the Housing Committee, which I'm also a member. But the issue I'm creating here, asking is, how did they get this land? This land today, Mr. Speaker, the cost of this land is about 3 billion today. But the way it was given, it was fraudulent, according to me. And that is why I am asking it should be investigated. Thank you.
Okay, Senator Mwenda Gataya.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I rise pursuant to Standing Order number 53-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on National Security and Defense and Foreign Relations regarding the recent deaths of individuals in Ichuka town and along the border between Tharaka and Egembe South. In the statement, the committee should explain the action taken to address security concerns within the border area of Doron location in Tharaka North, Tharaka County, and Egeka location in Meru County, including any steps taken to address incitement from petitions in the region, which resulted in 2 people, namely Evans Motebei and Getonga Njoke, losing their lives recently. Number 2, Honorable Speaker, the same committee should outline the timeline for providing compensation to the families affected by the incitements of insecurity along the said border. Number 3, Honorable Speaker, the committee should provide an update on the progress of investigations into the murder of Wires Mugambi, also known as Kiraku, who was fatally shot by a policeman during demonstrations that took place in Ichuka town on 9th March 2023. And at the same time, the committee should determine reasons for the death of Daniel Mutebei and the sequence of events that led to his murder, ultimately resulting in the protests that occurred on 9th of March 2023 in Ichuka town. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Those 3 statements stands committed to their respective committees. I can see some requests here. I don't know whether they want to make comments or the reason for their requests. Senator Boni Karwale.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to seek further clarification on the statement about Buxton by Senator Chute. Mr. Speaker, this is a scandal in the making. In fact, Mr. Speaker, it's a clever confidence game meant to swindle the people of Mombasa County of 10
prime acres of land. Mr. Speaker, the land in Buxton goes for 300 million per acre. And since there are 10 acres that are being developed, that is 300 billion shillings. Sorry, 3 billion shillings per speaker. Mr. Speaker, just so that I'm clearly understood why I know this is an attempt to swindle us. Mr. Speaker, against that 3 billion shillings of prime land, the strategy is to build 2,000 houses, and then the county government of Mombasa will be given 10%, which is 200 houses. Each house is 3.2 million. So, Mr. Speaker, the county government of Mombasa will then make, after selling those houses, will make around 600 million shillings after losing property worth 3 billion shillings, Mr. Speaker. And they have lost ownership forever. Mr. Speaker, this scandal must be stopped by this parliament. You have been around the world, Mr. Speaker. You've gone to this kind of project on the island of Hong Kong. A similar island in Hong Kong, they have put up houses, but those are skyscrapers. Instead, when you go to Buxton, what they are putting up, they are similar houses like what was being pulled down. Where is the logic? We should just stop it. We should just go there as the entire Senate and start singing church and war songs and circumcision songs and chase out these people so that they can know we are protecting the county of Mombasa. Mr. Speaker, can they come and table evidence to contradict what I am saying if it must be go on? Mr. Speaker.
Senator Abbas Sheikh Mohammed.
Honorable Speaker, I also support the statement from Mheshimiwa Shute. Mr. Speaker, the idea of giving of low-cost housing is a very noble idea, but the purpose of the idea is to help the low-income Kenyans so that they can live in a decent houses. However, the whole thing has changed now. This thing now is being taken to rich people who are buying the houses at a higher cost, and the cost has really changed. One of the things is the counties are losing a lot of money, on land, prime lands actually, which is actually not valued. And the best thing would have been, this land should have been valued first, and then the county should have been paid their money, and then the ownership of this land should have changed. But now what happens is they're only giving 10% of the houses that have been constructed. As you're hearing, it's only 600 million shillings out of 3 billion shillings. That means that the county now is losing a lot of money, and they have also losing their land. Those people who used to live there for N years are not compensated, and are not given any other houses. And what we are now doing is actually what being told that they're building low-cost houses to take care of the local income people, the poor and the rest who are not able to afford decent houses. But things are now changing. 3.5, 5.5, these houses are now changing the cost, and the pricing is changing. So if the same people will still be living poor, and they will still live in decent houses. So the whole purpose actually is not there. So, Mr. Speaker, I beg to support.
No, I'm trying to give members who have not spoken today. But I'm not looking at your faces, I'm looking at the screen. Okay, Senator Tabitha Mutinda. Did you contribute again? Did you?
Mr. Speaker, I rise to support the statement by Senator Gataya of the Rakanidi in regards to the issue of the young man who was actually shot down by police during the demonstrations in Chuka. Mr. Speaker, I rise to support and urge the Committee of Security to be able to urgently to be able to give a report on that particular matter that happened in Chuka during the demonstrations of Maandamano at that particular time. And as we have stated earlier and before, at this point we've encouraged bipartisan talks to be tabled on this floor, unlike the kind of demonstrations that took place that have ended up making us lose lives for our wonderful Kenyans who are working so hard to be able to bring a living on table. And yet what happens at the end of the day because of these particular demonstrations, then they end up losing their lives, Mr. Speaker. So it is at this particular time that I really support Honorable Gataya, Senator of the Rakanithi, because he's here supporting also his people, and as Kenyans we back him up. And we want this matter tabled very urgently. The county commissioner, Tharaka-Nithi, should be able to very fast give this committee the report of the young man who is soul arrested because of the demonstrations. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Karungo Dangwa.
Mr. Speaker, I was warned when that petition came to the House, to the committee, that Buxton issue is a hot potato. Mr. Speaker, the Committee of Housing, Roads and Housing, we have to make sure that the people of Buxton get what is theirs. The county government of Mombasa, the developer of Buxton Estate, must give the people of Buxton, the former residents, Mr. Speaker, what is theirs. I stand here as we are progressing on that issue. I'm a bit worried why the same issue is being requested in another committee, Mr. Speaker. We are on progress to give the people of Mombasa what is theirs. Mr. Speaker, I request you, so that we do not have games that are played within this House, Mr. Speaker, that matter continues and you can give us a joint sitting together with the JLAC, Mr. Speaker, because we have to follow and make sure that the people, the former Buxton residents, get what is their own, Mr. Speaker. Why is the matter being taken to another committee when we were just about to conclude, Mr. Speaker? That is my issue. That is my issue, Mr. Speaker. What has been taken, what has been seen, who has taken what, Mr. Speaker? Mine is to ask those two committees, we sit down together so that we can listen to that issue and conclude this matter, Mr. Speaker. Otherwise, after JLAC has taken the matter, another committee on land will come again, Mr. Speaker, and they say they're talking about land. Then after land, a matter of tourism, Mr. Speaker, they will say Mombasa is a tourist county. Let the matter go to the tourist committee, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, let this matter be handled, if not by both committees.
No, you know, majority in the chariot? No. Wanaongea na wale. Okay. I gave the mic to majority in a long time ago. What happened? I gave you the mic, the floor.
Oh, sorry. You know, Mr. Speaker, Senator Kajwang should allow me to prosecute the point first. Then I'm sure you'll give him, because it's not very usual for him to be around at this hour. So I was wondering. I was wondering what is coming up, Mr. Speaker. I don't know whether it is this Buxton issue, You know, Mr. Speaker, having been in this house long enough, I know that when you see a matter making rounds from one committee to the other, transcending one parliament to the other, because it's not the first time that Buxton is before this House of Parliament, then there is a chance that there is more than meets the eye. Mr. Speaker, I don't know what has informed the decision, but I am concerned by the comments by the chair of Transport Committee. Mr. Speaker, we should trust our committees. If a competent committee of this House is handling a particular matter, I feel that it is only respectful to the membership of that committee and to us as a House that we allow them the requisite time to conclude on a particular matter before moving it to another committee, Mr. Speaker. Therefore, I stand to support the chairperson of Committee on Transport, Land and Housing, Mr. Speaker, that if indeed they were already handling this matter, then they should be allowed to conclude on the matter. Once they have brought the report, should the House hold the view that either a particular matter hasn't been fully addressed or there is reason to believe that the committee did not carry out its responsibility properly, then the House can be moved to think otherwise. But I find it wrong that any committee of this House, when handling a particular matter, midway, that matter is taken and given. It doesn't matter if a member coins a question in a different saying, oh, you know, if we start encouraging that kind of movement, and I have no ill will against any member bringing the matter before the House, but I feel maybe what Senator Chute brought is proper before the House, Mr. Speaker. But then that particular matter should just have been added as additional matters for the committee to find out, Mr. Speaker. So I don't know what informed the decision to take it to a separate committee, Mr. Speaker. But I hold the view that whatever supplementary question are brought, so long as it relates or even has the slightest of similarity to a matter that is before any committee of the House, and it doesn't matter which committee, we should trust our committees of the House, Mr. Speaker. That's my point.
Senator Betty Montet.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I rise not to talk on the hot potato, but to support the statement sought by Senator Mofire. Mr. Speaker, sir, the issue of demonstrations in this country has always been handled very badly. The issue of demonstrations are not illegal in this country. We've seen deaths resulting to these demonstrations, while wananchi are always there trying to just pass a message to the government or to the relevant authorities if they are not taken care of well. And by doing so, we end up losing very, very humble souls, people who are just coming out of the streets to demonstrate and give their message. So, Mr. Speaker, sir, as the police give this report, I would also urge them to carefully handle demonstrations in this country, because I think demonstrations are here to stay. We are going to demonstrate so long as the government does not give us what is due to wananchi, and therefore can the demonstrations be handled with care so that we stop losing lives in demonstrations. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
This issue has elicited a lot of interest because I want to close the statements hour. Let's get from the Deputy Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker.
Senator Kajwang, visit, you are standing under number 98.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
When no member is on the floor, there is nothing complete. You cannot raise under what now? How will you raise a point of order? Maybe
So
when he is contributing, you can be able to do that.
So my speaker, Mr. Speaker, my time starts counting now.
Yes, Senator Kajwang.
You stop my time then.
And you should not contribute. Which is standing under?
Mr. Speaker, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 55.3E. Standing Order 55.3E requires that a request for a statement, should not repeat in substance any matter covered in a prior request for statement or already responded to and blah, 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 Mr. Speaker. And in raising this point of order, I want to buttress the point that has been put forth by the chair of the Roads Committee. And Mr. Speaker, I'm a member of the Roads Committee. The Roads Committee is seized with a petition on the same subject. Mr. Speaker, the distinguished Senator Chute was in the same delegation that I was in, where we met the governor of Mombasa and the members of public and the developers in Buxton. And he was sitting to my immediate left, Mr. Speaker. If a matter is currently before another committee, a similar matter, Mr. Speaker, that Standing Order 55, and if you look at even Standing Order 100, Mr. Speaker, that matters before a select committee should not be referred to. The only area where I disagree with all the speakers who have spoken is the part where they are insinuating that the speaker has already made directions on which committee the matter should go to. The procedure in this House is that once the statement has been read by a member, it is the speaker to give directions on the committee to which the statement should be sent. And so for those who are imputing that the speaker has already decided that this matter is going to the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee, I think they are anticipating the decision and ruling of the speaker. Mr. Speaker, we want to call on you, having listened to the sentiments of members, having listened to the reservations of the chair of the Roads Committee and contributions of other members of the same committee, that you shall exercise your power under the standing orders and direct this particular statement to be addressed by the committee that is currently seized of the matter. And Mr. Speaker, I want to urge members of this committee to take very seriously what has been said by the distinguished senator for Kakamega, who has given certain prescriptions on how the interests of the public and the citizens and residents of Mombasa should be safeguarded. I believe, and I still do believe, Mr. Speaker, that the Roads Committee, with the competent membership of Senator Chute, the competent membership of Senator Peris Tobiko, with the competent membership of Senator Wambua, and the competent membership of Senator Edwin Sifuna, and the competent membership of Senator Lelegwe. Mr. Speaker, I believe that this committee should be able to provide responses to the questions raised by Senator Chute, and it is in your power, it is in your hands at this point to direct that this statement be sent to the relevant committee, which is the Roads Committee.
Thank you, Honorable Senators. Spend your minutes. 2 minutes, kindly, 2 minutes. Let's conclude the statement now.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, I walked in when my chairman was really agitated. I was wondering what the problem was, but now I understand what the issue was. Mr. Speaker, just to add on what Senator Cheriot, the majority leader, said and what Senator Kajuanga said, the Speaker, the matter of Buxton is properly before the Roads Committee. The issues raised, and I know he raised those issues when we met in Mombasa, could just be supplementary questions on the statement, issue statement. I'm very sure the committee will be able to deal with that. But Mr. Speaker, on the matter of the security issue raised by Senator Mofaya from Tharaka Nithi. The Speaker, one of the things that we have to do as a country is to respect the sanctity of life. The Speaker, you know, when we speak here and talk about so and so has been shot dead, so and so has been shot dead, for us it could just be numbers and people. But the Speaker, it's lives that we are losing. Irrespective of the reasons why people are demonstrating, irrespective of the reasons why people are found on the wrong side of the law, there is no law that authorizes police officers to shoot, to kill people. As a Speaker, if we continue this trend, then I don't know where we are going to stop. My prayer as a Speaker is that once the committee is seized of this matter, of this statement, let the Senate be that house of reason that makes it very, very costly for police officers to go about shooting and killing people in the pretext of stopping demonstrations. As Senator Montero said, Mr. Speaker, we have announced that in coming weeks, maybe we could have more protests. It could happen. We don't want, Mr. Speaker, a situation where police now take it for granted that you can just go and kill people because they are protesting. Mr. Speaker, let's respect the sanctity of life, and I thank the Senator for Senator Kanithi for bringing this statement. I thank Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Senators, clearly looking at this statement, I'm really and also listening to the sentiments of various senators who have given their remarks on this statement, I rule that this statement shouldn't be handled by two committees. That is the Committee on Roads, Transportation and Housing, and the Committee on Lands. Housing and lands, those are two different committees. Chair Arons, are you disputing my intellect? So, next order. Statement and standing order 56(1)B by 3 committee chairs. We start with the chairperson, Select Committee on County Public Accounts. Who is out of order? The chair or who is out of order? Chair, County Public Accounts. Do you have a statement from your committee? You know you must engage on one thing at a time. Yeah?
There is a problem.
Proceed.
Mr. Speaker, I apologize. Senator Ezena distracted me a bit. No, it only happens three days in a week. Mr. Speaker, I wish to give a statement relating to the activities of the Senate County Public Accounts Committee pursuant to Standing Order 56(1)B. Mr. Speaker, during the period under review, and that is commencing 25th October 2022 to 30th March 2023, the committee held a total of 30 meetings. The committee has interrogated and prepared 13 reports awaiting adoption by the committee before tabling in the Senate. The following are the county entities whose reports are awaiting adoption by the committee: Nyeri County, Nandi County, Bomet County, Tharaka Nithi, Vihiga, Homa Bay, Nyamira, Tana River, Kiambu, Kitui, Isiolo, West Pokot, and Narok County Assembly. Mr. Speaker, sir, out of the interrogations of the above county entities, a number of issues of concern arose. Most of the county entities had challenges with submission of documents to the auditors, as stipulated in the Public Audit Act of 2015. The committee noted that most county executives and assemblies did not avail relevant supporting documents to the Auditor General during the audit exercise. Mr. Speaker, sir, the reports also revealed that most of the county entities were not able to apply proper accounting practices, and their financial statements were characterized by lack of regular reconciliations. Subsequently, the lack of regular reconciliations resulted in variances between the IFMIS and financial statements. This resulted in inadequate reporting and presented an inaccurate position of the financial operations of the county assemblies. Mr. Speaker, sir, the reports further revealed that a number of counties had weaknesses in executing their budgets, and most of the county entities did not adhere to the approved budget ceiling set for programs, votes, and subvotes. Mr. Speaker, the audit reports also revealed that the entities made payments outside the integrated financial management system, contrary to the PFM Act. The practice of processing transactions outside IFMIS could be an avenue to bypass financial controls and may have led to misappropriation of funds. Mr. Speaker, the committee further noted that most counties had weak human resource management, where most counties recruited staff without following due recruitment procedures, in addition to absence of policy to determine optimal staffing levels. Mr. Speaker, sir, the committee was also concerned about delays in exchequer releases to counties from the National Treasury, thereby hampering program implementation and budget execution. These also occasioned penalties levied on the counties from the Kenya Revenue Authority for non-remission of statutory deductions, putting a lot of strain on the county entities who found themselves in the circumstances out of their control. Mr. Speaker, the committee is in the process of adopting and tabling its report with recommendations of how to address the findings above from the audit report so far interrogated. And Mr. Speaker, because we had agreed, even at the liaison committee, that we present a very, very summarized version, Mr. Speaker, we will be happy to table a more detailed report of our activities, which will include, Mr. Speaker, the position of the committee on Article 2265 of the Constitution. Article 2265 says that if a holder of a public office causes loss of public funds, that holder must make good whether they are in office or not. And Mr. Speaker, my committee is considering inviting former governors where there have been cases where the Auditor General has pointed fingers at them for causing loss of public funds. The other concern that this House has registered is that we are still dealing with 2019-2020 financial year. Mr. Speaker, in our detailed report, we shall be recommending that we will be setting subcommittees to fast track and to ensure that we are up to date so that we can close 2019-2020 by 30th of June and to ensure that we are looking at the current financial year. And finally, Mr. Speaker, it is important that as a Senate, 10 years after the commencement of devolution, that we do a legislative impact assessment of the PFM Act, of the Public Audit Act, of the Procurement Act, and ask ourselves whether they are fit for purpose or whether this House needs to amend them to reflect the realities that county governments find themselves in. Mr. Speaker, I appreciate the Office of the Speaker, the Senate leadership, and the Office of the Clerk for the support that they have accorded this committee. Thank you.
Thank you for that brief statement. There is a, yes, Senator Medu.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I have, since yesterday, after I came in, I have tried to be very respectful and obedient because you told us that once we press our intervention button, you shall allow us to speak. I was here until 6:30 in the evening yesterday, and you didn't allow me to speak. This morning, you, the Speaker. This morning, Mr. Speaker, I was in these chambers. I pressed the intervention button, and again, you didn't allow me to speak. But now that I'm not sure I have caught your eye, I have made you to catch my eye. This is the position that I wanted to mention in specific of what I think is out of order. And I'm not disagreeing to the ruling that you made yesterday on that seat. Because you referred to the Speaker's rules, number 5, senators are required not to enter the chamber, lounge, or dining room without being properly dressed. This means that a male senator shall be dressed in a coat, collar, tie, long trousers, socks, and shoes, or service uniform, religious attire, or such other decent dressing as may be approved by the Speaker from time to time. An equivalent standard shall apply in respect of women senators who may also wear kitenge or such other attire. Mr. Speaker, when you ruled yesterday that I withdrew from the chamber, I was not allowed to mention this, and I think it is very important that you allow me to mention this. I came here yesterday donning a religious satire of the Hindu religion. And Mr. Speaker, it is perplexing that you on that chair wanted to roll it down on me, that I cannot put on a Hindu attire because I'm not a Hindu. Mr. Speaker, I would not want to agree with you to that extent, because if you do not have a Hindu in this house, you do not say that they are not represented in this house, Mr. Speaker. In this Speaker's rules, Mr. Speaker, it is allowed that we be coming here with or what Senator Redama Olakina, our minority whip, wears, is the traditional attire, Mr. Speaker. I would not want to agree that if we do not have a Hindu here, then we cannot put on Hindu attires here, because it is then to mean that communities that are not represented in this Senate, their traditional attires will never find a place in this assembly, Mr. Speaker. So in that extent and in that regard, Mr. Speaker, I would want to implore on you to review that ruling that you made yesterday. And let us have respect for all religions, Mr. Speaker. Do not force us to subscribe to just one.
Senator Medu.
Yes, sir.
You know you are using the word you in a way that is confusing me. You referring
Mr. Speaker,
to
the
me
life of that seat is...
Because I understand the chair was here then, made a ruling on your addressing. So why are you using shortcuts again? Because it was not, definitely it was not me was here. It was another chair.
Mr.
So
Speaker,
why are you bringing this issue again?
No, Mr. Speaker, because I was not allowed to speak. I was told I have to go out and come back when I'm dressed in a tie.
Now you are smartly dressed.
But,
Sit down and transacting business.
I'm agreeing with you, Mr. Speaker.
Yeah,
it's not that I want to disagree with that ruling.
The Speaker dispensed of this matter yesterday.
But this particular issue that I'm speaking about was not dispensed. It was not dispensed, Mr. Speaker.
No, maybe I get to the answer.
Yeah, maybe you could look at the answer, but
okay,
the religious issue that I'm addressing to this afternoon was not addressed, Mr. Speaker.
At the answer on what the Speaker ruled yesterday.
That could be fine,
I think
Mr. Speaker.
that's better. You know, I told you again to refer to Standing Order 98. Because we have finished that matter, Senator Onyonka, we cannot go back to the issue. I've ruled that we must consult the answer, and that has been notified by the clerk. No, he is not on the floor. You cannot inform him. Because he is not on the floor now. You know, I have a lot of respect with you, Senator Sifuna. But it's Standing Order 98. That is what saved this house from a necessary point of orders. If you raised when the member was on the floor, that would be better. But now you see you are raising the issue when we are done with this matter about the dressing. What is it you are saying?
You know, Mr. Speaker, first let me say or confirm that I'm rising on Standing Order 122 E, which says that a senator shall be out of order if he deliberately gives false information to the Senate. Mr. Speaker, I know Senator Matthew is a Christian. How can he come and deliberately give false information, in fact, using religion? That because he felt bad that he was kicked out for being improperly dressed, he wants to ascribe the manner of dress yesterday to a religion that he does not belong to. And he's lying to us. He's lying to us that he is now a Hindu because of wearing Hindu attire yesterday. Mr. Speaker, you know...
Senator Sifuna, how do you know that he did not change his religion last night?
I know him. Unless, Mr. Speaker, he changed his religion last night, I know for a fact that No, he's heckling now. He's heckling. Mr. Speaker, you have the records of all of us here. Edwin Sifuna is a Catholic. He is a Christian.
He's the one who spends all the time, all the weekend. I follow him very closely on social media. He's always at AIPCA church. In fact, even including this weekend, he was at an AIPCA church, Mr. Speaker, and he's laughing because he knows I'm telling the truth. According to this standing order, you cannot falsely mislead or give information that you know is false to the Senate. You should rule him out of order and let him go out of the house and resolve his religious crisis that he's going through.
Honorable Senators, in the public gallery, we have 87 students accompanied by 80 teachers from St. Paul's Kinangop Academy in Nyandarua County who are in the Senate on an academic tour. Honorable Senators, in our usual tradition of receiving and welcoming visitors to Parliament, I extend a warm welcome to them. And on behalf of the Senate and on my own behalf, wish them a fruitful visit. Thank you. Senator Medu.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I rise to welcome my students that are from St. Paul Academy. Mr. Speaker, St. Paul Academy is my neighbor at home. We come from the same ward. It is a school that we all looked up to. I attended a public school. I really wanted and I hoped that I would ever get an opportunity to go to St. Paul, but I never got an opportunity to go to St. Paul. I went to a public school, but through God's grace, I'm now here. I want to welcome them to the Senate for this learning tour and encourage them as they go back to Nyandarua, as they go back to Kinangop. When they see me standing on the floor of the Senate, it's a major encouragement to them that they can go to any length, they can go to any house, they can get to any height, and they can achieve anything that I would want to achieve. Mr. Speaker, had you given me an opportunity when Senator Sifuna was on his feet, Mr. Speaker, I would have said that I never said that I'm a Hindu. I never said that I have changed religion. I only say that I came here in respect to all the religions. Mr. Speaker, I saw Senator Sifuna yesterday wearing a kanzu, and I know Senator Sifuna is not a Muslim. He did that because he respects that religion. And Mr. Speaker, again, finally, it is very unparliamentary for Senator Sifuna to say that I lied. Lying is very unparliamentary. He should have said that maybe I misled the House, but saying that I lied, and it is in the records of the House. The students from my county are here, and they know that their senators are head of the church. For them to hear that I lied in the floor of the House, I'm sure that it's not something that I would have wanted to take home. So I wish them well as they go back, and they have my best wishes always. Thank you.
Okay, let's go to the next chairperson, Select Committee on County Public Investment and Special Funds.
He directed that the county governors and the top management to rationalize the staff establishment of water companies to a level that is lean and efficient in service delivery. The committee further directed that the company management to review the water tariffs to enable them to generate sufficient revenue to sustain their operation. The third issue, Mr. Speaker, which was cross-cutting, was the issue of non-revenue water. The committee noted that most of the companies had non-revenue waters levels exceeding 25%, which is allowable loss, as per the Water Services Regulatory Body regulations and also the international best practice. In all the counties we considered, the worst case, which had the highest level of non-revenue water, was Bomet Water Company. The committee, therefore, made instant recommendation and directives to the governor. And for Bomet County, Mr. Speaker, we noted that the water company had dilapidated the water infrastructure, and we therefore directed the EACC to immediately institute investigation with the objective of ensuring that those who will be found culpable are prosecuted, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I can see my member is excited about that. And Mr. Speaker, we have done the same for Kisii County. Issues directive to the EACC to investigate the operations of the Gusii Water and Sanitation Company. The fourth issue, which was cross-cutting, Mr. Speaker, was the transfer of assets. We noted that most water companies either maintained inaccurate asset registers that were not up to date or lacked the asset registers altogether. In other instances, the committee noted that the national regional water bodies that got into contracts with water companies in counties to develop water projects had transferred the associated liabilities to the said water companies, but retained the ownership of assets. For instance, and this, my neighbor, good Senator Boni Khalwale, will take keen interest in this. For instance, Mr. Speaker, Kakamega County Water and Sanitation Company Limited owes Lake Victoria North Water Services Limited a whopping 4.2 billion shillings worth of loan, being money that went into the development of a water project in Kakamega County. The assets from the said project were still held by the Lake Victoria North Water Services Limited. In our recommendation, Mr. Speaker, we directed the county governor to put in place appropriate measures and ensure that all assets belonging to the water company are transferred to the water company. So Kakamega County Governor was requested to bring the matter of the 4.2 billion shillings to the attention of the Council of Governors and the Intergovernmental Relations Technical Committee. Mr. Speaker, we have also dealt with the matter of the regional block, which is ongoing, and we noted that regional blocks continue to receive money from county governments and from donors, which is not audited because there is no legislation in place for the management of regional economic blocks. Some of these regional economic blocks have received billions of money, donor money, which it is very difficult to account because they are not audited by the Office of the Auditor General. Mr. Speaker, we are also dealing with the matter of unremitted pension, staff pension, which has not been remitted to pension funds. This amount is estimated to be 52 billion shillings, which counties have not remitted to the various pension funds, and we will be making a report on that. The committee has also sent out invitations to a number of governors to appear before it to respond to audit issues raised by the Auditor General, and we have noted that the governors have been very cooperative in this matter. They have been appearing before us when required. The committee plans to conduct a fact-finding visit to a number of counties, priority to be given to those investments that are facing huge fiduciary risks across the country. The committee will be doing its first report writing retreat in mid-May, and thereafter table the first report on water companies in this chamber. Mr. Speaker, I ask senators to take seriously the matter of water companies in their respective counties, because we noted that most of these water companies are insolvent and are facing serious management and technical challenges which, if not addressed, Mr. Speaker, we will not have water for our people. And Mr. Speaker, I want to thank my members that in our deliberations on the audit report, the committee has taken immediate steps. They have taken immediate steps, including making some orders, which our governors have gladly accepted, and some of them have made changes, which very soon, Mr. Speaker, we'll begin to see the fruits of our directives to the various counties. Mr. Speaker, having said that, just like my colleague from PAC, we have a lot of issues to say, but because of time, Mr. Speaker, I submit. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Chair. I really encourage the chairs to do a comprehensive report and table so that also we can benefit from the knowledge that you have, which counties, which water organ bodies. So prepare a comprehensive report and table so that all of us can be able to access it. So let's get the chair delegated. After this chair delegated, then we can take maybe 20 minutes for brief comments on the three statements.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. This is a statement relating to the activities of the Select Committee on delegated legislation for the period between 14th of October 2022 to 30th March 2023. Pursuant to Standing Order 195.1 of the Senate Standing Orders. Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 195.1 of the Senate Standing Committee order to make a statement relating to the activities of the Select Committee on delegated legislation during the first part of the second session, that is 14th October to 30th March 2023. Mr. Speaker, sir, the Senate Select Committee on delegated legislation is established under Standing Order 195.1 of the Senate Standing Orders and is mandated to scrutinize statutory instruments laid before the Senate. During the period under review, the committee held a total of 11 sittings, during which it considered one statement tabled and one report. Legislative proposals. Honorable Speaker, sir, during the period, the following legislative proposals are being considered by the committee for publication. 1, statutory instrument bill, the county statutory instrument bill, the statutory instrument amendment bill. Honorable Speaker, the bills. Honorable Speaker, during the period under review, the committee did not consider any bills. C, Honorable Speaker, sir, regarding the statement 1 was sought from the committee during the period under review, the issue raised in the statement touched on remuneration and benefits of the state officers by the Salaries and Remuneration Commission, SRC. The statement was shot by Senator Mohamed Faki, MP. The committee stopped further deliberation of the matter as the committee awaits the Salaries and Remuneration Commission to be reconstituted. Petitions. Honorable Speaker, sir, during the period under review, the committee did not consider any petition. E, committee induction and stakeholder engagements. Honorable Speaker, sir, the committee conducted its induction retreat from the 9th of January 2023 to 1st of February 2023. The members of the committee and the secretariat were taken through mandate of the committee and packing the statutory instruments Act 2013, the need for regulatory impact assessment, approval, annulment process of delegated legislation, and strengthening the parliamentary scrutiny of delegated legislation. 9, Mr. Speaker, sir, the committee has also been able to meet with the National Transport and Safety Authority, transport network companies, company owners, drivers, and the passengers, Regulations 2022, LN number 120 of 2022. It was observed that the regulations were not in breach of the Statutory Instruments Act 2013. The committee resolved that the National Transport and the Safety Authority transport network companies, owners, drivers, and passengers Regulation 2022, number 120 of 2022 be approved. Mr. Speaker, sir, in conclusion, I wish to thank your office and that of the Clerk of the Senate for the continuous support according to the committee in undertaking its work. Lastly, I also wish to thank the members of the committee for their commitment and diligence in and contribution during the committee activities. I thank you, sir. Honorable Speaker, I lay.
Honorable Senators, today we are blessed with many visitors, and in the public gallery, we have 97 pupils accompanied by 6 teachers from Jack Range School in Kiambu County, who are in the Senate on an education tour. Honorable Senators, in our usual tradition of receiving and welcoming visitors to Parliament, I extend a warm welcome to them, and on behalf of the Senate and on my own behalf, wish them a fruitful visit. I thank you. For Kiambu is not around. Senator Chalage, you want to welcome the visitors?
That's a UDA stronghold. Mr. Speaker, sir,
But
on behalf
Senator
of...
Sifuna, next time if you want to do anything, just use the machines. Then you'll be assisted. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I want, on my own behalf, on behalf of the great people of Nandi, and on behalf of the Senate, Mr. Speaker, so that the children understand the county I'm representing, on behalf of the Senate, on behalf of all of us, and on behalf of your Senator, our brother, Senator Karungo Wadhangwa, to extend, and also on behalf of the Speaker, to extend a warm welcome to the Senate Republic of Kenya. As you are aware, there are 47 elected senators, and out of 67, you minus 47.
Clerk, could you please still do another 5 minutes division bell? Members, can I have the whip, Senator Dr. Halwale? Senator Boni? Senator Boni? Senator Boni Halwale? Kindly approach the. Honorable members, let's be in order. Let's be in order. Honorable members, be in order. Let us resume our seats, members. The Honorable Mundigi, kindly resume your seat. SC, kindly resume your seat. Honorable members, let us be in order. Kindly resume your seat, Senator. Senator, kindly resume your seat. We shall division on this. We shall defer voting on this one. Members. Let's move to the next one. Sorry? Give me this one. Sorry? Yes. Honorable members, honorable members, honorable members. Honorable members, Senator Abbas, kindly resume your seat. Members, we have ruled that we defer voting on this one, and consequently, order number 9 proceeds. Number 10, sorry.
Order number 10.
Members, order number 9 is also deferred. Clerk, let's move to the next order.
Order number 10, the Equalization Fund Appropriation Bill, Senate Bills number 3 of 2023, second reading.
Honorable members, this is a resumption of a debate that we had on the matter that was interrupted on Wednesday, 19th of April, 2023. And honorable senators, I propose the question that the Equalization Fund Appropriation Bill, Senate Bills number 3 of 2023 be now read a second time. Senator Cherargei Samson Kiprotich.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir, for this opportunity. I want to thank the Committee on Finance and Budget for this Senate bill, the Equalization Fund Appropriation Bill 2023. Mr. Speaker, the genesis of this bill is Article 204 of the Constitution of Kenya, where the Equalization Fund is supposed to be given effect, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, sir, since 2013, up to today, either we have been using regulations, as has been passed before, to allow allocations of funds, Mr. Speaker, sir. And I think it is the right time to have the Equalization Funds Appropriation Bill 2023 in place to ensure, Mr. Speaker, sir, that all of our monies that are meant for our people should go, especially for roads, for schools, what we call the basics, Mr. Speaker, sir. And that was the real intention of Equalization Fund, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, this bill is a bill to authorize the issuance of sum of money out of Equalization Fund and its applications towards this, the service before the end of 30th June on basic services, Mr. Speaker, including water, roads, health facilities, and electricity to marginalized areas, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, you have to know 34 counties have been captured, and Nandi is one of the counties that have been captured, and I'm happy. I know there is an argument that under Article 204, Mr. Speaker, that counties should be specific to marginalized areas. But through the CRA, Commission of Revenue Allocation, there is a formula. And I'm happy out of 47 counties, 34 were able to qualify. That is why, Mr. Speaker, I said traditional poverty that we know is totally different. And that is why when you go to Kiambu, Kiambu could be one of the wealthiest counties, Mr. Speaker, but you have the up and poor. When you come to Nairobi, Mr. Speaker, there are many families that go without food, and they are what we call urban poor, Mr. Speaker. With the creation of infrastructural evictees, that when infrastructure is being built, Mr. Speaker, we evict Kenyans, especially Ruai when COVID happened, and many other areas, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, in all honesty, that is why they qualified as marginalized. I think the aspect of marginalization needs to be rechanged and to debated on, Mr. Speaker, and looking at the bill on a number of counties, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, we need to appreciate that traditional, and that is why even now at the moment we're having a conversation. We have had a conversation on CRA formula, Mr. Speaker. We have been having a discussion on the issue of 1 man, 1 vote, 1 shilling, or 1 man, 1 vote, 1 kilometer, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, it has been a conversation. Because sometimes, even I had on the issue of CTF, where people are arguing that when you go to northern part of Kenya, they are able to pay maybe the school fees for the entire, when the population is low. When you come to Ruiru or Roysambu constituency, the population is quite high, Mr. Speaker. Therefore, these are conversations that Equalization Fund should at least try, Mr. Speaker, because even if you don't have a road in Mandera, sometimes you have failed to have a road in Kibra, in Muguru Kwanjenga, somewhere in Nandi, where I come from, Mr. Speaker. Tindred, for example, is normally prone to landslide. This is the season for raining. Even when you go to your county, Bomet, like some parts of Bomet, I think in Chebalungu constituency, Mr. Speaker, it also, it continues parts of like Chebunyo, Nyangores, Sigor, some part of those areas in Bomet County, Mr. Speaker, also have similar problems. To some people, Bomet looks like they have tea, but when you look at the other parts, like in Nyeri, when you go to Kieni, it has similar challenges, Mr. Speaker, just the way the challenges they face also in Kitui County. It is that the enormity of such challenges might not be as big as many people would expect, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, I think this Equalization Fund, our colleagues from the traditionally, Mr. Speaker, the issue of traditionally marginalized regions is no longer traditionally marginalized. I've talked about up and poor. Where you go, in fact, when you go to Mandera, people are living in better hygienic conditions than in Kibra, than in Muguru Kwanjenga, than in pipeline areas, Mr. Speaker. Because at the end of the day, they don't have water here in Nairobi, and they are in the city where GDP, 60% of GDP is there. They don't have roads, they don't have toilets, they don't have food. So it shows you there is up and poor that needs to be addressed and use equalization fund to address affirmatively in those areas, Mr. Speaker. Even in Nandi, we thank God. We have tea, we have coffee, we have sugarcane, we have milk. Essentially, as a source of champions, we look like we have everything. But some areas in Nandi, like Tindred Sub-County, part of Kapchorwa ward in Nandi's constituency, Mr. Speaker, is a challenge. Even Soba Songo ward, Mr. Speaker, is also a challenge. And therefore, I'm happy that, and I'm happy of one thing, that this money will not be given through CRF, County Revenue Fund, Mr. Speaker, because it's more of affirmative areas, Mr. Speaker. And it is, for example, in Nandi, and I have indicated Kapchorwa, Mr. Speaker, Kapchorwa ward will receive 16,672,96. That is Nandi Hills constituency will relieve in total 16.672936. That is 16 million plus will go to Nandi Hills constituency, and specifically to Kapchorwa. So I hope in the implementation, let us also give priority to the people of Kapchorwa ward in Nandi Hills sub-county to sit as Kapchorwa residents and agree on priority, especially within roads, because the roads in Kapchorwa ward is very pathetic, Mr. Speaker. When it rains now, they are inaccessible, they are cut off from the rest of Nandi, Mr. Speaker. The schools that need to be upgraded, the issue of electricity becomes a challenge. And therefore, when you go to Tindred constituency, I'm happy that Chemelil Chemase, it might look like they have gold, Mr. Speaker. They grow a lot of sugarcane, and Kibo Sugar Factory and Miwani and West Kenya get a lot of nucleus, which Chemelil is part of it. They get their sugarcane to go and crush. And I'm happy when Jubilee government governed by handshake, my brother, Senator Wambu, was the first chairperson on agriculture, and we went and sat with those farmers in Chemelil, and he was able to him, as a visitor, he might have thought that we are living in land of honey and milk, but Chemelil Chemase ward has its own challenges. It's a very hot area. The roads are still a challenge. The issue of electricity is still a challenge. Chemelil Chemase ward in Tindred constituency, and I'm happy they have been allocated for affirmative action in terms of equalization fund. They have been given 15,805,883, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, even in Songo Soba, the roads there are very pathetic, Mr. Speaker. The electricity is still a challenge in Songo Soba ward, and therefore, the Soba Songo ward, Mr. Speaker, is one of the biggest wards in Nandi, outside Kilibwani ward. And therefore, Soba Songo ward is still a challenge. The roads to Sokosik, or from the way Konanyanya, all the way to Taunet, to Cabrer, all the way to Kibukwa, Mr. Speaker, all the way you go through, and then you come out through Maraba Center, the hospital there. There are many roads within Soba Songa. It's a big, Mr. Speaker, and you have to appreciate that Tindred has a very unique topography. It's a blessing from God, but the maintenance of roads, how you need to do it, and those are those roads, Mr. Speaker. So I'm happy Soba Songa has received the highest with 108 million Kenya shillings, 851,992. So, and Tindred ward, Mr. Speaker, where in our local language, and I think you know this, when lightning is seen, Mr. Speaker, they normally say, so it means, Mr. Speaker, when the lighting, I'm translating, Mr. Speaker.
Stick to the parliamentary language.
Yes, they say, Mr. Speaker, when you come from Masab, where I come from, and you see the lightning shining at the Tindred, we know it's ready for planting season. So that's part of Tindred ward that shares even up to Wazingishu and many other areas. I'm happy in Tindred ward, Mr. Speaker, they have a total of 15,685,704 that will allow them to improve electricity, water, roads, and schools, Mr. Speaker, so that is affirmative. So Tindred ward also has not been left out, it's part of Tajasis. You remember the famous Father Boel. Those are missionaries who tried and improved the lives. Although he died tragically, Father Boel is renowned, is dear to many many Nandi residents, especially from Tajasis area, Tindre, Taptengele. Those are areas, Mr. Speaker, that have been very important, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in total, Mr. Speaker, the constituency of Tindre will get 140,343,580. 140 million plus will go to 3 wards in Tindred, Soba Songo, Chemelil Chemase and Tindred will get 140 million plus. Kapchorwa ward is 16 plus million. Mr. Speaker, we are happy we are getting close to 200 million plus that will go through Equalization Fund to assist projects, especially the basics as per Article and vision of Article 204, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I don't know why the Deputy Minority Leader is concerned, yet he sits in Senate Business Committee, and they are the ones that generate what we do on the floor of the House. Mr. Speaker, so this is a very important, bill, and I think Senator Wambua and me are ranking members, and he knows that under Article 96, we have a role to protect devolution. And as a leader, he is the one who ensures that we allocated sufficient time to canvass and put across our points. I will take into consideration what he's saying. Mr. Speaker, when you look at the law, this one should be passed as a bipartisan. I know, Mr. Speaker, a bipartisan has another meaning, Mr. Speaker, but this bill should be passed in, is it consensus? Let me not use the word bipartisan, because this is an important bill, Mr. Speaker. It's all 34 counties. Whether they are from Azimio or Kenya Kwanza, all of them are here. As a Senate, we just need to pass. In fact, I don't know whether Kisii, you know Kisii is where God resides. So I think they don't have many problems, unlike other areas. But, Mr. Speaker, we normally get unique cases from Kisii. That's a story we can have a discussion with my brother, Senator Onyonga, who is a very good company, Mr. Speaker, especially in the evenings. He can give you very good stories, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, what we need to, when you look at the appropriation bill, this 13 billion that is meant for these counties. And, Mr. Speaker, I don't know whether it was Senator Wambua or Senator Ledama who said under Article 219, when the money is appropriated, it should be dispersed immediately. Mr. Speaker, the Treasury continues to violate Article 219. Because, Mr. Speaker, whenever we collect revenue, we pay, yes, the public debt. The sharing between national government and county government is very clear. Why is it that the National Treasury should allocate, I'm told, more than 129 billion from January to now are yet to be dispersed to counties, Mr. Speaker? I have heard, Mr. Speaker, through your office and the clerk's office, you have always been called us for special sitting to pass cash disbursement schedule, Mr. Speaker. Counties are coming to a complete shutdown. I want to appeal to the CS Treasury. As much as we agree that there are challenges in terms of collecting revenue because of political temperatures, that my brothers continue to put it very high. Every time, Mr. Speaker, be it when they're in the church, they are in a funeral, they are doing iftar dinner, or wherever, Mr. Speaker, that is, we cannot be able to realize. Mr. Speaker, you are aware that the budget is 3.6 trillion. The president has been deliberate to cut by 300 billion the government, that the Jubilee government, governed by handshake, was able to raise, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we are looking at 2.9 trillion KRA projections, Mr. Speaker. We were being told there were tax reliefs, and I'm happy Senator Onyonga brought a statement to discuss if there are any challenges with the economy. Mr. Speaker, I want to say, in the last financial year, there were many issues that were being raised before the floor of House, that tax exemptions, tax reliefs, were going up to high of 370 billion, Mr. Speaker. There were even allegations that imports from China, Mr. Speaker, of 400 billion were never paid for, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, if we tighten the collection of the revenue in the country, Mr. Speaker, we shall be able to finance. But my appeal, you know, will be like rocking a chair, singing music, guitar to our God, Mr. Speaker. If we don't do in a way, Mr. Speaker, you know, there is a reggae song that when you look outside the window, do you see anything to smile about? Mr. Speaker, we should protect our, and even in the song, I think Lucky Dube says, If you see there are more, they say, Mr. Speaker, in that song, I don't know the title of the song, that if you look outside and we are building more prisons than the schools, Mr. Speaker, there is a problem. But that problem needs to be resolved when we pass a budget here, Mr. Speaker. The Treasury must release the money to the relevant entities of government so that it can function. And I'm happy one of the flagship projects of the president is taking off steadily and slowly, the Hustler Fund. And I want to encourage the young people from Kitui, from Kisii, where my brother Onyonga comes from, to take up the Hustler Fund and to pay back. I know there has been a narrative that take it and don't pay. Mr. Speaker, this is a revolving fund. We want our young people to be good business people. If the respected bishop, senator, Mr. Speaker, deputy minority leader of the House, a ranking member, you know, he should be the one encouraging Kitui youth. I know politically correct, to be politically correct, he can say that in a rally somewhere in Kakamega, but I want to encourage him when he's in Katutu Parish to encourage young people to take that money and be able to. Even my brother, Senator Onyonga, Senator Catherine Muma, I know she's a fiery lady who has been in this politics for some time. Mr. Speaker, finally on 13.9 billion, because I know my time is spent, is that the committee report looks quite okay, but I think we might need amendment at some point to ensure that we amend, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we need to discourage this use of rules and regulations. The High Court ruled in 2015 that we need a standalone legislation or legal instrument to govern this. And Mr. Speaker, if this is not going to CRF, I don't know whether it will come audit for Public Accounts Committee, where I am the vice chair, Mr. Speaker, because now it's not going to CRF. They should be able to tell us who will oversight. Is it the Public Investment Committee of the National Assembly? Is it the Public Accounts Committee of the National Assembly? Or will it land to where you was truly is presiding over, Mr. Speaker, so that we can have clear cut of results, Mr. Speaker. And in fact, Controller of Budget, I want to ask the Controller of Budget to be able to be releasing this amount of money as per Article 219. That's how we can develop our counties, Mr. Speaker, and ensure. Looking at the committee reports, Mr. Speaker, I want to commend the issue of, they have said, and you know, Mr. Speaker, I take an exception in one statement in closing remarks, that future draft determined poverty index should also, feminization of poverty criteria. And then it goes ahead, most women and girls face secondary discrimination. Hence, their plight is not recognized, and that's the need to put them into consideration from the onset. So, Speaker, boy child is endangered. So, Speaker, there is only one man we are going to appoint in Chairman's Conference. He's called Akraf Hakimi, who was sued by the wife for divorce. But, Mr. Speaker, he had taken the whole money to the mother. I'm not saying we should encourage mommy's boys and mommy's boys, but that man should be the chairman of men's conference. Mr. Speaker, the boy child is failing extinction. Everything that we make, Mr. Speaker, anywhere is about the girl child. Talk about sanitary pads. No one is saying, let us give the girl sanitary pads, we give boxers or briefs to the young men, because we need also to be hygienic. You know, these are young men also, so that as we make sure women are properly hygienic because of their unique nature, the young people. So, Mr. Speaker, when men's conference shall be called next time, that guy called Hakimi is a player. I'm forgetting he was a Moroccan player, Mr. Speaker. With those very, very remarks, I want to say I support and look forward to bringing more amendments to make it. I thank you, Mr. Speaker, and see the ground for Senator Wambua.
Senator Cherargei, is it official that there will be a man's conference, or rather a men's conference? You will be the vice chair. Honorable Senator Muma Muyeka Catherine.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to speak to this very important bill. Mr. Speaker, the Equalization Fund is an affirmative action fund. As a beneficiary of affirmative action, in this House, I am passionate about the role that affirmative action tools play in the equalization of society at large. Mr. Speaker, we are at a very critical point as a Senate. We are in the final stages of the budgeting process. Contrary to those who feel that Senate does not participate in the budgeting process, this is it. We are actually participating in the legislative approval of the finance bills that have been put before us. Mr. Speaker, it is important that we play our role during this time with a lot of passion. Mr. Speaker, because the role of the Senate is around the county governments, and it is during this time that we are able to protect the interest of counties in terms of the appropriations that they, or the equitable share that they get to receive. Mr. Speaker, the Equalization Fund is provided for under Article 2 or 4 of the Constitution. That is one of the clauses that is extremely clear. Mr. Speaker, contrary to the belief that the government of Jubilee was people-centered, Mr. Speaker, 4 years, 5 years after 2013, the Equalization Fund was not operationalized. Mr. Speaker, if the government then really cared about the marginalized and the need to bring up the areas that are marginalized, Mr. Speaker, this is the one fund that should actually have been operationalized much, much earlier. Mr. Speaker, the bill before us, the appropriation bill before us, is actually for the 2 years preceding. This is 2021-2022 and 2022-2023. So in fact, we are not looking at the appropriation bill for the financial year beginning 2023-2024. So I wish to call on all the senators that even as we pass this bill, because it's better to have one bird in hand than chase the two in the bush, even as we pass this bill, I'm requesting that we must immediately ask the Finance Committee to go back to the drawing board and in the next few days bring the appropriation bill on the Equalization Fund for the year 2023-2024. Then we will be up to date. Mr. Speaker, we have been told to appropriate 13.8 billion, which is the amount that should go to the Equalization Fund in accordance with the provisions of the Constitution. The Constitution provides for 0.5% of the revenues collected nationally. Mr. Speaker, unfortunately, we have received the report that of the 13.8 billion, 3.5 has been hived off. Mr. Speaker, I would want us to record that that is unconstitutional, because it is not up to Treasury to determine how much money goes to the Equalization Fund. That is provided for in the Constitution, Mr. Speaker. So the reduction of that money is unconstitutional, and I would wish that the Senate will actually carry out and bring this to the attention of the House and seek to ensure that the 3.5 billion is appropriated, whether in later times, but we need to make good that, otherwise we are encouraging the national government to engage in lawlessness. Mr. Speaker, last time I heard His Excellency the President William Ruto speak, he is encouraging that we respect the rule of law. Mr. Speaker, the law number one that we must respect is the Constitution. And in this particular instance, the Constitution has defined the amount or the percentage we need to put in the Equalization Fund, and we need that percentage to be appropriated and put in the Equalization Fund in accordance with the Constitution. Mr. Speaker, The other issue I would want to speak to, I know that the fund is supposed to benefit areas that are marginalized, possibly areas that were historically marginalized, and it is supposed to bring it to par with other areas that are more developed. Mr. Speaker, what is not clear, even though we have been given some guidance by CRA, what is not clear is whether the CRA has also put in place an index that can assist Senate to know that marginalized area X has since moved from point A to B and now is still either on the schedule of the marginalized or is not on the schedule of the marginalized. Mr. Speaker, I would wish to ask that even as we think through how the Senate is going to oversight the implementation by counties of this fund, Mr. Speaker, that we should get a special committee to put an index that will assist us to be able to tell Kenyans that this fund was intended to bring certain levels of development, and it has done so, or it has failed to do so. Mr. Speaker, this is also a fund that is supposed to be implemented by county as a conditional grant, moving from national government to the counties. Mr. Speaker, I'm aware that the National Assembly is also trying to come up with a bill to try and get the Equalization Fund to be implemented as a constituency fund. Whereas we note that the marginalized areas identified by CRA are situated in constituencies, Mr. Speaker, I would urge that the Senate ensure that we stick to the provisions of the Constitution on this fund. The Constitution is very clear. It's a national fund, but which is supposed to be given to counties as a conditional grant towards the implementation of a number of functions, which in fact are devolved functions, including water, roads, health facilities, electricity, and so on. Mr. Speaker, it says including water, roads, which means that the CRA must not be fixated with only the ones that have been named here. The CRA should also be able to find other matrices or other criteria and other indicators that can help us to identify marginalization and also include them in this decision. Mr. Speaker, the Equalization Fund has a sunset clause. It is expected to come to an end after 20 years. But this is the one fund, as I have said, which was not implemented by the Jubilee government, which was there for 10 years and did not do anything about implementing this fund. Mr. Speaker, I would ask that the Senate consider passing a law to recommend either the extension of the time, because now we have about 7 to 8 years to go since promulgation of the Constitution. Either we extend this term to ensure that the 20 years are achieved, or in the alternative, we get the government to commit within the next 7 years to deploy all the arrears. And Mr. Speaker, as we speak at 2023, the arrears are approximately 43 billion. Funds that should have been put in the Equalization Fund were never put in the Equalization Fund, therefore were deployed to the counties or to the areas that are marginalized. Mr. Speaker, I have had a few senators from different counties also feel that they come from counties and also have areas that have been marginalized. They feel they have been excluded in the 1,414 marginalized areas that have been identified by CRA. Mr. Speaker, I suggest that the Senate look at this issue in a more scrutinized manner to ensure that we are not excluding any marginalized area in a county because maybe the formula of CRA did not capture a marginalized issue in a particular area. And Mr. Speaker, even as we come up with those indices or indicators on marginalization, I wish to request that the CRA, the Senate urges the CRA to also come up, include indices like gender, disability, minority ethnicity, and so on, as parameters that can be included in considering marginalization. So overall, Mr. Speaker, I'm requesting the Senate and senators to request the Finance Committee to immediately bring the appropriation bill for the Equalization Fund for the year 2023-2024 for consideration. It should also bring the issue about the outstanding 43 billion that needs to be given to counties, and should start the consultations to ensure that we have a criteria and possibly a fund that the Senate can use to ensure oversight of these funds once they start going to the counties. I beg to support.
Senator Wambua Enoch.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity to also make a contribution to the Equalization Fund Appropriation Bill 2023. The Speaker, I want to begin by saying that this is really long overdue. As previous senators have said in their contribution, this is a bill that should have been brought to the Senate at the return of devolution, or the House of the Senate, in 2013. I say this, Mr. Speaker, because one of the issues that successive governments have been struggling with is a question of even distribution of resources to counties, the failure of which has given birth to regions that we refer to as marginalized. An admission on our part as leadership and as governments that we have not done a good job in ensuring that the resources that are collected nationally are shared equitably in a way that people across the country enjoy the fruits of development. The Speaker, the fund, as captured in Article 204 of the Constitution, is very clear on the amounts of money that should go to this fund. It is 0.5% of revenue collected nationally. And so, Mr. Speaker, the question that Senator Muma is raising, or the matter that she is raising, is a matter that we cannot be debating. The Treasury cannot and must never be allowed to decide how much money should go into this fund and how much money they should slice off for whatever function outside of the fund as prescribed in Article 204. The Speaker, the whole idea, and we have walked a long journey in getting to where we are today. When I joined the Senate, the Speaker, in the year 2017, to my dismay, I was told that Kitui was not in the list of marginalized counties. So we were never supposed to benefit from this fund. We engaged with the CRA, and I remember a meeting that I had with the CRA in their office, and quarreled on behalf of the people of Kitui County. Because Mr. Speaker, and this was something that anybody should be proud of. If you walk outside this building and probably ask people at random to tell you some of the areas that are dry in this country, probably out of 10 people, 6 or 7 could mention Kitui, even those who have not been there. So when I came in and I was told that Kitui does not qualify, I was terrified. And we engaged in a serious fight. I am happy now, Mr. Speaker, that the conversation has changed from marginalized counties to marginalized areas or villages in counties. And with that, now we have Kitui East, we have areas in Choloni Ward, and in fact, Mr. Speaker, the day before yesterday, I was having a conversation with the member of the County Assembly of Choloni Ward. I was very excited that finally his ward has been included in the list of marginalized areas. Of course, not happy because he's a leader in an area that is marginalized, but happy that at least there is now hope that some money could go down there and assist his people. And so we have Choloni Ward, we have Endau Malalani, we have Motitu Kaliku, we have Vochamatu, and Zombe Mweteka. In total, the Kitui East constituency, 178 million Kenya shillings will be going there to assist in the specified areas of roads, water, air, and electricity. And for that, Mr. Speaker, we can only be grateful and hopeful that before these monies find their way to areas where they are needed, another obstacle will not arise on the way and stop the disbursement of these monies. And that's why I wish to very respectively differ with the position taken by Senator Muma, that we begin to ask questions as to whether areas that were marginalized in 2013 are still marginalized in 2023. Because if we take that route, Mr. Speaker, what is going to happen is that before we complete that study, maybe in 2025, we'll be asking the question whether the areas that were marginalized in 2023 are still marginalized in 2025. And we will never start rolling out these funds. Let us start rolling out these funds now and do reviews as the fund is operational. I'm grateful, Mr. Speaker, that in Kitui South, we have several areas that will benefit from this fund. Adi Ward, Ikanga Chatuni Ward, Kanziku Ward, and Moda Ward. In total, 124 million Kenya shillings will be going to Kitui South constituency in areas that have been earmarked as marginalized. And I can only hope that this money, when it gets there, then it will go into good use, and our people will be part of the team. Then that will actualize the dream of the drafters of the Constitution, that their livelihoods, their standards of living, especially in matters relating to water, roads, health, and electricity will be brought closer to the national average of the people enjoying those services. The Speaker, in Mwingi Central, I am happy that Gune Ward, No Ward, and Waita Ward have been considered to receive a total of 78 million Kenya shillings. Again, I'm hopeful that the areas of Gune, No, and Waita, which have been earmarked to receive this funding, will also benefit, and the standards of living in that area will be brought to almost par with the national average. And then lastly, the Speaker, we have Mwingi North, where marginalized regions in Chuso Ward, in Mumone Ward, in Ngomene Ward, in Tharaka Ward, and in Sikuru Ward, bringing a total of 153 million Kenya shillings to Mwingi North. The Speaker, in Mwingi North, if there is a place in this country that the definition of marginalization would apply, it's a region called Tharaka. Recently, we fought for them and they got a sub-county called Tharaka Lagishu Sub-County. And the battle has not stopped there. We are now pushing for divisions and locations and sub-locations. This is an area, Mr. Speaker, in Kitui County, inhabited by the Tharaka people, in Kitui County, an entire sub-county. It's to the north of the county, bordering now their ancestors, their friends, their relatives in the Tharaka Nithi County. So what happens with these people is that in Kitui County, they feel like, and rightfully so, they are marginalized. They are at the edge. Kitui County is basically a Kamba-speaking county. But then in their neighboring county, which is Tharaka Nithi, where now their relatives live, they cannot get services from there because they don't belong there. They belong to the other side. So they are lost in between. The Speaker, I am happy that they have made the list of the marginalized areas in Mwingi North, and that these people of Tharaka then can benefit from roads. The road network there is awful. Access to water is a big problem for them. Electricity is a pipe dream. And of course, health services are what they are there. So I'm happy that at least now the Tharaka people, alongside other marginalized areas in my county, have been listed to benefit from this fund. The Speaker, in total, Kitui County is going to be receiving 534 million Kenya shillings. I can only be grateful if this money then is received and gets into good use. The Speaker, allow me to say this, that when matters like this come to the floor of the Senate, this is one instance where senators are called upon to show and to demonstrate leadership. There are going to be issues arising from this list. There will be people we lead who will feel that in their own estimation, they are marginalized. They should have benefited. And yet, they have not been listed to benefit. There will be other people who will be feeling that
Yes, we have been earmarked to benefit from the fund, but we believe we could have gotten a little more. The Speaker, it has been more than 10 years since the drafters of the Constitution gave us this document, and Kenyans have passed it unanimously, almost unanimously, that we needed to create this fund so that we develop areas that then were not properly developed. So, Speaker, my appeal to my colleagues is that let us demonstrate bipartisanship on this matter of the Equalization Fund. Let us pass this bill. And after passing this bill, then let's push Treasury to release funds. I have read that the report of the committee that this bill or this fund, the funds should not go to the county revenue fund. That will be an issue of debate, the Speaker. Because one of the things that we must also be very clear about as we pass this bill is to ask ourselves the question, Senator Boni Alwade, so these 13 billion Kenya shillings that should be released to the Equalization Fund, how shall the functions under those funds be oversighted? How shall we hold the people responsible for rolling out those funds in those areas accountable? And you know, Mr. Speaker and honorable members, it always sounds very good in this Senate when we fight for money to go to our counties. But things turn south when you start asking the question as to how these monies are being used. The Speaker, it is now almost 6:30. Senator Alwale is seated here. Senator Peris Tobiko is seated here. Senator Ambue is on the floor. We are trying to fight for money to go to counties. And the governors, whatever they are happy. Senator Alwale thinks they are taking whiskey. Some of them don't take whiskey, but they are taking what they take. Mr. Speaker, they should equally be positively responsive to questions of audit on the use of monies that we send to our counties. Lastly, Mr. Speaker, I wish to commend the committee for a job well done. And it is my hope and prayer, Mr. Speaker, that we would take the shortest time possible to pass this bill, and get the funds to help our people and develop this country equitably. Mr. Speaker, with those many remarks, I support.
Senator Halwale Boni.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, how I wish it was a full house when the Senator of Kitui was addressing us. He has raised very many issues that formed food for thought about where we want to take this country. Mr. Speaker, I rise to support and want this afternoon to speak not to the letter, but to the spirit of Article 204 of the Constitution that gave effect to the Equalization Fund. Every time I look at what has happened in the last 5 years, and
Speaker, you were not in the House. Senator Perez Tobiko was not in the House. But Senator Enoch Wambua was there. I don't know what happened. They went for the letter in the last 5 years and completely moved away from the spirit. The letter then became, go around with a microscope across the 47 counties. See if there is any little location, division, sublocation, or village, or polling station where people are faced with challenges, quote unquote, of what would be defined as being marginalized. So the noble spirit of Article 204, which was to right the wrong that was done to the people of Kenya by a policy of government that was based on a paper that they called the sessional paper number 10 of 1965, we were supposed to write that. And what happened while we were away, Mr. Speaker? Murang'a County found itself on the list. Bungoma County from Western found itself on the list. What a lie. Lack of a philosophy when you are governing a country is one of the most dangerous things. Mr. Speaker, 1963, it was clear the philosophy of the founders of the nation was African socialism. They went all out of the way to make sure that they keep on pushing development to improve the socioeconomic status of our people. Out went Kenyatta, and Moi came in, and President Moi said, wait a minute. This African socialism is a good thing. It has been pushed by my boss. Let me carry it on. So he brought it with the spirit of perpetual succession of government, which they called at that time Nyayo. That is the principle of perpetual succession of government. President Moi, he might not have the degrees that Molo and Sarah, Kabata, and all of you have, but he understood government. He called it Nyayo. Come Mwai Kibaki, the gentleman saw that we needed a new philosophy, moving away from perpetual succession, and Kibaki told us, we are only going to succeed if the nation decides to work. So Kibaki says our philosophy is going to be for 10 years, the working nation that pays taxes. But come in the Jubilee government, no philosophy. And people came here and started sharing equalization funds like robbers. How would people of Bungoma, of Murang'a, and the others compete with Turkanas, really? Have you ever been to Kitui? You know, the parts described by the honorable member, sometimes they don't see rain, not for months, but for years. Why would Bungoma compete with it when our problem in Western is that we have too much rain in a year? And the purpose of this fund, Mr. Speaker, sir, was to give people water, to give people health, to give people electricity, connectivity. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'll come again.
Senator Dr. Boni Halale, how I wish I didn't have to interrupt you. Honorable members, it is now 6:30 p.m., time to adjourn the Senate. The Senate therefore stands adjourned until tomorrow, Thursday, 20th April 2023 at 2:30 p.m. Senator Boni, you will have your 15 minutes to continue tomorrow when the House resumes.
Most obliged.